Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to Crime and Sports early and ad-free right now. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In the depths of an Atlanta forest, a clash between activists and authorities ends in tragedy. I'm Matthew Scher, and on my new podcast, We Came to the Forest, we expose the hidden truths behind a shootout that left one activist dead and countless lives forever changed. Binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest ad-free on Wondery Plus.
Hello, and welcome to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Oh, yay indeed, Jimmy. Yay indeed. My name is James Petrogallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jimmy Wissman.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us today on another wild and crazy, as always, edition of Crime and Sports. It's insane. Every week it gets crazier. Last week, I think that was one of our craziest episodes with Jay Adams.
Oh, it was fantastic.
We're almost to 300 episodes, and last week was crazy. And last week was the Scummy Awards, too. If you missed that, go back and check it out. We had a new category and everything. We always try to introduce something new to the Scummies every year. That's the way it works. Well, it's the most prestigious award event in all the world.
You really got to put forth the effort if you want one.
That's what it is. But today we have another crazy brain damage sport event, so that's going to be interesting. Before we get to that, though, very quickly, thank you for your reviews. They help a lot. Wherever you listen, give 5 stars. It does help a tremendous amount. Head over to shutupandgivememurder.com right now. Tickets to live shows. We have new merchandise up. Tickets to live shows. Looks like Small Town Murder, Minnesota and Chicago are sold out here next week, but people return them because it's a rescheduled one, so keep checking. A couple might pop up. You never know. There are a couple live Crime and Sports on the books out there. Go to the website, check it out if you want to come to one of those. I know one that has a bunch of tickets left is Sacramento in August, so come see us there. That'll be fun stuff. And Patreon this week. My goodness, is it good?
Oh, boy.
My goodness, is it good? We have one that I've been waiting for a while here, and then another one that's a recurring one that's one of our favorites. Patreon.com/Crime and Sports is where you get it. Anybody $5 or above, you get access to everything. Crime and Sports, Small Town Murder bonus, all the back catalog, the whole deal. And, of course, Jimmy will mess your name up on a shout-out later on. He's going to screw it all up. This week, the episodes you're going to get, oh, my goodness. For Crime and Sports, we are going to go through the theory that this guy wrote a book. This man, he's a pretty decent, known as a good private investigator, spent a good 15 years of his life putting this information together. I mean, driven himself to near bankruptcy, the whole deal. And his premise is the title of the book, and it's how we're going to talk about, quote, OJ is innocent and I can prove it. Exclamation point. And this book's theory is that this is where the Jason Simpson, OJ's son theory came from. And my God, the book is like a 20-hour long audiobook. I've read it all. It's insane. And we're going to talk all about it and see, is it possible that maybe OJ is innocent and Jason Simpson is the real murderer? We'll discuss it. And then for Small Town...
I'll tell you this, James. I have heard this theory, and I was fucking convinced. So I can't wait to hear more.
Wow. I mean, you talk about in-depth detail of everything. I have his psychological reports. I have I have his work schedule, Jimmy. This is like in Serial when everyone was like, "What did Don punch in at Lens Crafters?" This is like that sort of thing. Like, what day? When did he punch out of work that night? It's crazy. And then for Small Town Murders, one of our favorites, we're going to talk about the new season. It's just about over now, but we've been watching. I think it is over,
isn't it?
Of Love During Lockup, which there's love after lockup, life after lockup, love during lockup, all the same thing. And we're going to talk about this season. They upped the ante.
They really got ankle deep in the shit this year. This one was...
They upped the crazy ante this year, and so
the body count on this show is crazy.
It's wild. You gotta listen to it. Even if you don't watch the show, it's so entertaining to hear us go crazy about it. So check that out. Patreon.com/CrimeInSports is where you get all of that and your shout out. And if you just want the shout out and to be a damn fine person and have great karma, you can do that over at PayPal using our email address, crimeinsports@gmail.com.
All right.
Let's do it, Jimmy. We got some brain damage here. We have a legend today, a Hall of Fame, a Hall of Famer. This is kind of like two legends in a row here, because we had Jay Adams, who's like a kind of a legendary skateboarder. This week we have a Hall of Famer, Bobby Hull, the hockey player. Probably know of his son, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Brett,
right.
And then Bobby's kind of there's a few names in hockey that even like non-hockey fans know of. You know what I mean? Like if you don't know shit about hockey, but you like sports, you know that. Wayne Gretzky, Gordie Howe, Bobby Hull, Bobby Orr, those guys. There's like
Mario Lemieux.
Yeah, the later guys, Lemieux, that sort of thing.
Okay, I got you.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's the main, like those older guys. That's kind of the
old Probert,
kind of the class that you know of. So Bobby Hull.
Real quickly before we get into this, I was so insulted when I saw what Jay Adams looks like. The man has my body. Had.
It does look like someone photoshopped a blonde head onto him, doesn't it?
It is so bad. I saw him. I was just like, "Oh Christ, man! How can we look any more alike?"
The good part is I never have to ask you to skateboard shirtless because I already know what it looks like.
You know what it looks
that's
like.
Helpful. I never go, Jimmy, stand there with that skateboard. Take your shirt off. No need. Done.
I do give that guy credit for standing at the side of a half pipe without a shirt on, knowing how we look. That is not what the fuck, man.
And also
Put
knowing
that soup bag away,
that he could fall and hurt himself and have a burn, a very bad.
Oh.
You don't want to slide on a half pipe with no shirt on. That's a burn.
Not on your belly.
Ooh, on your back. Bad shit. Bad shit. That was a wild episode too last week. It really was. That guy was nuts. This week, this is a weird one because this is kind of we're going to talk about two different people in the same person. Okay. We're going to talk about public Bobby Hull, who is a upstanding guy who's on a million commercials, the face of the NHL. That guy. He's the perfect guy. He's the, whatever. We're going to talk about that, and then we'll talk about the private Bobby Hull that his family knew and that the reporters knew and some of his teammates knew and some police officers as well also knew. Talk about that Bobby Hull as well. So, but he's a legendary player without a doubt. Robert Marvin Hull is his full name here. Mm-hmm. He is born January 3rd, 1939.
Oh, wow.
An older gent we're talking about today. 39. Yeah, some of the shit, like, we're not going to talk about in-depth hockey from the 60s. We're just not. We're just not. Number one, and it's not hockey. Don't be insulted, hockey fans. I think hockey's cool. I like hockey, really but I don't know enough about it. It's not an inviting sport to get into late unless you... Yeah. Like, you can marry into hockey. If you marry a big hockey fan and they watch hockey all the time, you'll come around eventually. But you can't, it's like a religion, hockey. You can't just like dabble in it and then just be like, I'm going to get into hockey now. Where do you start? It's like saying I'm going to become Jewish now. Like, what book do I read first? I read that, but then what about this? Who do I talk to? Or I'm going to become Catholic. Where do I go?
The words in that Jewish book are just as difficult to pronounce as the names on the back of his jersey.
That's what I mean. Or you're going to become Catholic, or you're going to become something. Yeah. Where do you start? What do you do? Like, that's what hockey is. So it's, I know a basic amount about hockey. I had friends that were hockey players, so I know how the game works and how the penalties work and all that shit. And now, basic stuff. But I'm not like one of these guys who's going to talk about the, 65 fucking Blackhawks, their front line. Their first line was like, I don't know that kind of shit. I know what I hear. So right away, we won't insult hockey people with that, and then bore non-hockey people with our non-knowledge of it.
I do appreciate that hockey is trying to appeal to a broader audience and get more people to give a shit about it by adapting the rules to make it a more fast-paced thing.
Yeah.
Like that icing rule, I didn't fucking understand anyway.
Ridiculous.
Two-line passes, I don't understand. Who gives a shit how far they passed it?
That's a remnant. So you used to not be able to pass over the line at all. Like they changed it in the 40s because now this is I read this. Sorry. In the 40s, you had to carry the puck over the line, so it was a lot slower game, no fast breaks. It'd be like in basketball if you told the guy, whoever gets the ball on the defensive end, you get a defensive rebound, you have to dribble it over half court before you can pass it to somebody. It's a boring fucking game, you know what I mean? No fast breaks.
Yeah.
So then once fast breaks became into hockey in the 40s and 50s, that's when guys like Hull excelled. Hull is a speed guy, he had the hardest slap shot in the NHL by any stretch we'll talk about. Yeah, this guy was a freak of nature back then, considered. He was wild. So
I like games that are exciting, and if you can make it fast paced, I'll fucking watch.
Yeah,
Jesus.
But I do like the fighting part of hockey. That's the thing. I enjoy the fighting part of hockey, and I that is different. Yeah, the game is faster and all that kind of shit, but there was a drama to, you see a guy, we just hit him against the boards. He did that. We just took a cheap shot. You're like, look at him. You'll see somebody circling, and there's a certain thing about, are they going to fight? That's a tension in hockey that you don't get in other sports, really, because a fight kind of ends the whole thing, whereas in hockey, it's just a penalty. And then they'll be back. Whereas how
are you going to get the teams back on the court to play in the third and fourth quarter when we just had a bench-clearing brawl in the middle of the second?
Yeah, it's not like the Knicks and Heat in the 90s going at it in the playoffs. You're like, great, how many, for game 4 of this series, how many guys are suspended now? Fuck. Who came off the bench?
How many technicals are we going to rock here?
So Bobby here is Robert Marvin Hull. Like I said, he's the Golden Jet, he's known as.
Oh.
Which those are both like two golden, which there's never anything bad about that. Anybody think golden is positive, and then jets are fast and sleek and all of that. Those
sounds like the name of a very expensive dildo, though.
Oh, the Golden Jet, Jimmy. It's wonderful. It needs
right next to the rabbit.
It needs 4 double A's, but boy, it knows how to harness the power of your Duracell. But it also, it's not just pure power, Jimmy. That's the thing. It's got the pulse is correct, man. The shit is the truth. That's the difference.
It is reliable.
It's reliable, but also a display piece. You wouldn't be ashamed to show it off.
You will not be sad when your kids open the dishwasher and there it is.
It's what's called the coffee table dildo. It's a different type of dildo. It's a coffee table dildo. You display it, you put it out, like next to your coffee table books. You have
put
that.
It on a coaster.
Exactly. Well, you need a coaster, Jimmy.
Chip up the wood.
What are we, fucking animals over here? What if one of the kids turns it on? It's going to chip the wood to shit. It's made of gold.
That's your table.
Very expensive. So Bobby was born in Point Anne, Ontario. His parents' names are Lena Cook, is his mom, and Robert Edward Hull is his dad.
They sound handsome as fuck.
Oh, Robert Edward Hull is a stout gentleman. He's a big fella. He's a big guy. He's a big, 240-pound,
holy shit,
big bruising son of a bitch. He's a cement worker. He's a big, tough. He plays like rec league hockey. He's one of those guys.
And they're in Canada.
Oh yeah, he's born in Point Anne, Ontario.
That is a lot of Canadian.
A lot of Canadian. This is a very Canadian family. Like it's less Canadian than like Brian Spinner Spencer, which if you haven't listened to that ever, go. It's like episode 40, 41. It's when we recorded in a 1-bedroom apartment, so the audio isn't as good as it is now. But the story is worth it. This Brian Spinner Spencer. It sounds like one of my made-up tales. It sounds like a guy playing in clogs with tulip rackets.
We record all of that with decent equipment.
No shit.
Just do it all over again.
No shit. Clear those out and redo the stories is what we should do. But the problem is that's where something started, so then you wouldn't be able to go back and listen to how the Shawarma Man started or whatever, because it all happened organically. We couldn't plan any of that shit.
That's the beauty of it.
It's very organic. So, but this is like that sort of thing, like Yuri Bubla fighting bears with hockey sticks. It's sort of like, that's what Spinner Spencer is. But anyway, he's the oldest boy, but there is a shitload of kids. I mean,
Really?
There's a lot of kids. Yeah, it's a lot. He had 4 older sisters, 3 younger brothers, 3 younger sisters. Do that math. That's 11.
Jesus.
That is 11 children.
Mr. Hull is, he thinks the world's collapsing and needs to repopulate?
He's not.
11 kids is too many, man.
I feel like if I'm his supervisor down at the concrete, cement, whatever, I'm thinking you're not giving your full effort during the day. If you have time for 11 to make 11 kids, I feel like
time. You got energy?
You're not tired enough when you go home. Like, you need to start hauling in a couple extra bags of cement or something, because I feel like you're just loafing if you're going to go home and bang your wife to that extent to where every time she's even remotely fertile, you are going to implant. It's a lot.
We are not even going to give you a raise this year. Matter of fact, we're taking $1.20 from you.
Yeah. This is like, that's what you did like in the 1800s when 4 of them would live. You know what I mean? Like by the 30s, like we had a pretty decent record of childhood non-death rates and shit. So
population's swelling.
If you have 11, there's a good chance you're going to have 11 or at least 10.
You're gonna see 11 adults.
Maybe, yeah. You're gonna have to raise them. So their Point Anne it's about a couple hours east of Toronto. It's a small town, few hundred people, like hardly anybody there. His sister Judy at one point said the population is, quote, about 1,000 if you count the dogs, about 100 if you don't. So that's a lot. A 9-to-1 dog to human ratio is.
I like that.
I mean, I'll
cuddle the fuck out of that town.
5-to-1's pretty good. You can 9-to-1, and then they become a pack, and I feel like you're going to, if you see dogs, then you're not going to go, oh, dogs. You're going to go, fuck dogs, run, run. They're going to be bloodthirsty at that point.
There are no cookouts there. Those dogs will ruin your day.
Overwhelmed by hundreds of dogs coming. You hear that? You just hear, over the hill. What is that? Oh, fuck! All different sizes and shit.
One's got blue face paint. Run. It's wearing a kilt.
Oh, God. The golden lab has gone bad. Everybody run. Run. Look at him. He's
They've
bloodthirsty.
learned to speak. I think it just said take everything from them.
It said, don't spare the children. I swear. I heard the one up front say, don't spare the children. It's fucked up. So the only industry there was the cement plant. That's what was there. If you lived there,
really,
you worked at the cement plant, period. That's it.
Fascinating.
One of those places. Very gray. They said there is, though, for a long time there, a huge red, white, and blue billboard saying, Point Anne, birthplace of Bobby Hull, world's greatest hockey player.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
They're claiming it.
That's some ego when you roll into that town and see that. There we go. Yeah, there's my town. World's greatest hockey player. That's me. So when Bobby was born, his son here that we're going to talk about, the doctor said, quote, the only difference between your son and you is that he doesn't eat so much, is what he said to the father. He was 12 pounds at birth, Bobby Hull.
He eats plenty. That is huge. That's a
enormous.
Giant baby.
That's like fucking Roy from Overboard. You remember Trav, Big Trav? 12 pounds? Whatever the fuck it was.
I bought a bag of ice that was 7 pounds, and that baby is 2 of those.
Yeah.
That's a lot of baby.
Yeah, a gallon of milk is 7 pounds. So there you take that.
Jesus Christ.
That's a heavy fucking load. It's a load. So they said that his father was known for being able to lift the front end of a car. Mm-hmm. Back then, too. These aren't like, plastic. We're talking about a steel car, like a car made out of metal back then.
But this could be a Model T, and it's just, you know what I mean? It's just a shell of a car.
Yeah.
I mean, the motor's still heavy as fuck.
That's the front end of a car is fucking heavy, period.
That's where all the weight is.
Yeah, I don't care if it's a Yugo or an Oldsmobile or a Suzuki
Unless it's
Swift.
a Volkswagen or an old Porsche, the front end's heavy as shit.
There's the engines in the back. Yeah, otherwise you're screwed. He was what's called a country hockey player, which is rec league. That's rural Canada rec league, where that's just the guys show up in homemade jerseys. I would assume they're not really anything like that. His sisters were the first ones to take up hockey, because they were older. And the Bay of Quint, I guess, would freeze over, and they'd go on there, and they were the first ones. And all the kids skated from a young age, like preschool. Yeah, by the time they got to kindergarten, they could skate. That's which I think was common in Canada. I really do. It's like teaching a kid to ride a bike in the States. I really believe like it's the same thing in Canada. Get them up on the skates.
Get them on the blades.
Especially back then. I don't know about now. I don't know anything about it. But
Bay of Quint? Is that what it is?
I think Quint. Quinte. It's either Quinty or Quint or Quinte.
Isn't that the name of the guy that was the captain in Jaws?
Maybe. Something with Quint. A Q. Quint.
I think it was Quint.
Quone. Quang.
But this was, Jaws is after that.
No, it's.
I was like, did he get his own bay?
Well, way later.
That guy with the filthy mouth? That's awesome.
So I guess Judy, the sister, was such a good hockey player and so tough on the ice that the boys once, like the neighborhood boys once came to her house to tell her parents to ask them to not let her play in the games anymore because she was too rough. And like they were like, listen, we're tired of getting beat up. You got to keep this. You got to keep this broad on a chain. She's fucking kicking our asses. She's kicking all our asses, and we can't take it. Now, Bobby gets his first pair of skates for Christmas when he was 4. That's his first pair of skates, and they said by the end of the day he was already maneuvering on them and like doing shit. He was into it. He said, quote, this is Bobby, "From then on, I went back every day and skated until I was exhausted. I would get up in the morning and put on the porridge pot, then go out to skate until breakfast was ready. I used to skate all morning and afternoon and only come home for meals. After dinner, I always went out again, and mom would have to send my sisters out to bring me to bed." So he would just skate till he just coming home to eat, and that's it. Which is pretty fucking wild. He said that he remembers constantly having to shovel snow. Because if you want to skate, you have to shovel the snow off. You're your own Zamboni at that point.
That is crazy.
That's tough. I remember in the winter in New York, like growing up, we would shovel the basketball court to play.
Right.
But that's not a whole fucking ice rink.
Did you do the whole court or just half court?
Oh, if we wanted to play whole court, we'd be like, so we're doing 3-on-3 half court, right?
we run it to 7?
We brought 1 shovel, and fucking, if we had 10 shovels, we could all get into this. But right now, I don't think. We'll just to the top of the key. Top of the key. Foul line's out now. Just clear it at the foul line. We're not doing top of the key anymore. Everybody who grew up on the East Coast. Yeah. If you grew up in snow and played basketball, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You'd be okay with the shrinking court. You know what? It's just in the paint we're going to play today. Head fake game. It's just a lot of head fake.
We're all Shaq today.
We're all Shaq.
Was there ice on the court too?
Sometimes.
If you got to the bottom, really?
Sometimes.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, you'd have to like try to break it or else try to miss it or whatever. Like, but if you brought a ball and a shovel, you're fucking playing at some point.
Yikes!
And by the time you shoveled some, you were hot, so you'd have your jacket off. You'd really want to play. You'd be into it.
My word,
You'd figure it out. So he says that I was usually one of the first ones out there for a game of shinny. I have no idea what that is. Being an American person who
don't look at me
doesn't know shit. Jimmy, what's a game of shinny? Let's decide what a game of shinny is. What do you say?
I think it's just like having a catch. It's just you're shinnying the puck back and forth to each other.
It's hockey, so there's got to be violence involved. Maybe it's shooting the puck off of people's shins, I think is what it is. Ow, I got everyone's shins. I win shinny, and then you start the game. Everyone has to start a little injured. He says, and it was up to the first arrivals to clear the skating area. Well, Jesus, you'd learn quick to be late to that fucking game, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no doubt.
But he was so excited. He said by the time he was 8, a childhood friend of his says, quote, he had muscles rippling all over him. At 8? That's kind of creepy.
Wow.
And he was only 5'10", by the way, when he grows up. He's not like a 6'5", big hulking guy. He's 5'10", 190 pounds, but he's ripped, though. Like, he's got... Yeah. There's a picture I'll show you later where he's in this ad where he's got no shirt on, and his fucking arms are, like, huge. He looks strong as shit, this guy. He wasn't a fighter. That's the other thing, too. He's famous for hating fighting and hockey. And, like,
really?
Oh, God. And, like, It's campaigning, the word I'm looking for.
He wanted it out.
Campaigning to get rid of fighting in hockey, and it ruins the game.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
He's a speed guy who scores goals, so fighting doesn't have any advantage for him.
Look at my spread in Hockey Weekly. Obviously, I don't fight.
Which
I'm
is
here
weird
for the ladies.
It's weird, though, because the reason why he doesn't get his legs broken is because someone else fights for him. That's how hockey works. You have a scorer. Every team with a good scorer, having a good enforcer you need it. It's mandatory, because otherwise people will just tee off on your scorer and hurt him, and that's that. You have to have a guy who will come and, like Marty McSorley or one of those guys that's going to come and whack you in the head with a stick if you fucking mess with the score. It's just how it is.
He's in a good profession if he wants to like be a guy that's taking pictures without his shirt on, because you know what I mean? A lot of hockey players are pretty fucking not in shape.
That's true, especially nowadays. These guys are athletes, but back then, then it was just I've been skating since I was 4, so I'm pretty good at it. But now it's like. Yeah, they were just like wrestlers, just a flat chest. They were just strong as shit, and oxes. Not guys you'd want to fuck with, like old wrestlers. See some of these.
Hockey then is what podcasting and comedy is now, because I would not be afraid to take my shirt off in some podcaster comedian calendar. I'm not afraid.
No, because
I'll look
hideous.
decent.
Yeah, they're hideous. They're hideous.
Don't wait until March. You'll be thankful that I was in this magazine.
Comedy really weans out the handsome. Like that's not. You're allowed to be an attractive lady in comedy, and there's advantages and disadvantages to that. You know, you get it's well documented. There's advantages. There's definitely disadvantages to that.
Yeah,
handsome for a man. Like overly handsome, you could be okay, neither of us are hideous. We've seen people that are, horrifying looking. In comedy, we're considered pretty fucking handsome. That's what we're saying. And
look at Louis C.K. That's an ugly man.
That's what I'm saying. These comedy is a lot of times like freaks of nature and shit like that. That's when we see like, movie stars, and they're like, I'm going to go do some stand-up. That'll be fun. Right. We're like, oh, no. You fuck yourself, mister. No. Same thing as podcasting.
The vast majority of them are terrible, thank God, Jeremy Piven.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, he was a stand-up before that, though. That's how he got.
Really?
Yeah, he was a stand-up, I think, before.
He did no.
I think he was a stand-up while he was trying to be an actor when he got on Larry Sanders, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that
Because Larry Sanders was one of his first like things that meant anything, where he actually was like on something and had lines.
Sure.
And he said he was like terrible in the audition. He wasn't any good at it, and that sort of shit. So.
Well, he's terrible at comedy too.
Yeah. No, don't do it, movie stars. You don't need that kind of abuse. You're used to people being nice to you for the most part. You don't need you don't need a crowd of people staring at you going, what are you looking at? What do you want?
You're an entourage. You have plenty of money.
You're good. And I was in a lot of movies too.
Yeah.
So he said that I guess his dad, all his friends said his dad would have him on the ice for hours and hours, not owls. Yeah. He'd have him for owls and owls. Him and all the owls.
Playing for owls.
That's what they bet on in Canada. That's that's the currency you use for wagers. That they said that they endlessly drilling him on the techniques and stick handling and all that kind of shit. So we're getting some Todd Marinovich vibes here, big time off of this shit.
Real
like
young and just shaping him.
Yep, I wish I could be a hockey player and not a cement worker, and you're going to do that. Bobby himself, he says, quote, he was sometimes impatient, but he liked to skate with me. Let's try it again, Robert, he would say. Keep your head up. If the stick blade is angled properly, the puck will feel right on it. So I'm trying to teach him all the little things.
So he's a junior then, yes?
No. His brother was his father's Marvin, and he's
got it. He got a different middle name.
Different middle name. Or he's Marvin. His father was Edward, I think, is the middle names. But he's the first boy of the family. So his father took over his development, is what it was told here. Everybody says that he calls his father, quote, a fair country hockey player. So pretty decent rec league guy. But he knew enough about the game to be able to help with all the little things as a kid that you would, need to know here.
Sure.
So the problem is that all is his story that comes out, for most of his career, is that his father was a cement worker who would get off of work and go out on the ice with him and teach him the technique and, this beautiful story.
country upraising.
James.
They
Yeah.
use two-day-old biscuits as pups because they don't have a lot of money out there.
Well, they don't even need to be 2 days old because it's so cold out. They just bring fresh ones out. The mom cooks up a fresh.
Warm 2 minutes ago.
Mom cooks up a fresh batch. You get the spatula, pop one off, and you take it. You take two, one to eat on the way out, and then the other you just
Or
throw
it gets
down on the
cold.
ice, frozen
The other one
solid.
will
But
get cold.
that's it. Now it's a puck by the time you get out there. Thanks, Mom. You paint it
Yeah,
black and
we're
you go to
country.
work. So this is the same thing. Do you remember Todd Marinovich in his story? All of the positive articles when he was in college and stuff about how he and his father were this great team to train him and blah, 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 blah. It was this big thing, but there's that never, you can't really do that in real life. That's very rare that I think Venus and Serena Williams are the only two athletes on earth that I can think of that haven't been completely troubled afterwards based on what happened to them before. You know what I mean? Tiger Woods.
He's a mess.
Tiger Woods. It's the Michael Jackson effect. Like you can't do that to little kids and then expect them to just follow doing that their whole life. You should be an adult from the time you're 6, and this is with business on your mind, no less. Like that's hard.
Right. Start drawing your logo, fucker.
Come on, kid. Think business. You're a brand, goddammit. And they're like, what? I want to watch Peppa Pig. What are we talking about? I don't want to be a brand. I want to be my brand is Peppa Pig, Dad. That's what I'm looking.
Leave me alone. What's going to work is teamwork.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go. So it all came out a little bit later, though, that his father was pretty abusive to everybody in the household, including the mother and everybody else. And there's a lot of stories floating around that little town.
Oh no!
But nobody would say anything back then. That's the weird part. Like we'll talk about it. The hockey press would be traveling with the team and stuff and witness things and then write the total opposite about it. Like they wouldn't even write about that. They'd write about what a lovely, amazing family this guy has and everything. Meanwhile, he's at his wife's throat in the middle of an airport. It's fucking crazy.
What's the benefit of that?
Well, there's quotes from sports writers.
Yeah, but why create a bullshit narrative when that's going to come out?
But it's a circle jerk, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You prop them up. The more you prop the players up, the more people love the players. The more people want to read about the players, the more they buy your newspaper. And then the more people come to the games and the more money the owners make and the more money the players get paid. And it's a circle that keeps going on and on. But you need a circle jerk. Yeah. That's the problem. You need a circle jerk. And that's what they were doing. One person here, Charlie Robotham, who's a former teammate of Bobby Hull in the minors in the 1950s. So he knows his family and stuff, Bobby's family. He said, Robert Sr. was an angry man, not versed in the social graces, and could be very cruel to his family. He said, it's hard to imagine, but if he didn't like how Bobby was playing, he would take him to Belleville to his games, and Bobby would have to walk 7 miles each way or skate across the Bay of Quint that far. Robert Sr. got away with murder. It wouldn't happen today.
That's some Max Verstappen shit, right?
I was just going to say, that's a Verstappen. I'm leaving you at the gas station. That's the hockey equivalent. You can walk or you have to skate across a bay. Across a bay? What are you fucking? It's not a pond. It's a fucking bay.
We don't know that it's thick out there, too.
That's my point, too.
Yeah.
He's going to skate
across. Falls in.
What if he's in the middle and it starts to crack? The kid's like 13.
Ass, I guess.
Skate faster. That's why he was such a fast skater later, Jimmy, because he had to get across the Bay of Quint before it fucking broke and he died in the fucking icy Canadian waters like a Molson. It's fucking ridiculous.
At least like a Wile E. Coyote rocket on his back.
No,
like that is
nothing.
Crazy.
Not even a skateboard, or if he'd have to a bicycle.
I'm sure it's safe. Like I've seen on these shows where they go out there on cars and shit.
People park their truck next to their little house
their
thing.
Shanty?
Their shanty.
That's insane.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. That's
crazy.
You can run, but what are you going to do with your car? Fuck, I lost my car in the lake. By the way, imagine living a place where you could literally ice skate home across the bay. Like, just ice skate home. I've imagined.
Skate home? What are you,
pussy? Jesus Christ. So, very much a Verstappen situation being left at a gas station. This guy is like Verstappen and Todd Marinovich rolled into one here. So, His older sister, Maxine, referred to her father's abuse as well in a Fox Sports documentary. And Bobby even gave hints at it with an interview in 1982 on a show called Greatest Sports Legends, saying that his mother mitigated the abuse he was subjected to by his father. So his mother would, make it a little better here. But, it's an abusive household. It's a very angry 240-pound cement worker controlling 11 children and a wife and really keeping everything on lockdown. Now, Bobby Hull's always the standout player. Always, when he's a kid. Always the standout player. He's in Bantam League at the age of 10, and he's the standout guy. There's 7 levels. Here we go, Jimmy. This is fascinating, I know, to you. And me too. 7 levels of competition in Canada. This is how you get in hockey, all right? We've done this with soccer in England. Now we're going to do it with hockey. There is the Pee-wees, the Bantams, the Midgets, the Juveniles, the Junior Bs, the Junior A's, and then the Professionals. That's how you do it.
Really?
Yeah, that's how you do it. You got to be a Bantam before you can be a midget, Jimmy. That's just the way it works. So,
and can you age out of those? Can I still play with the Pee-wees at 41?
Probably not. I mean, skill level, yes. If you take your shirt off, maybe not. They'll probably be like, nah, he's too. No, I'm just kidding. That's a callback to Jay Adams. But no, I think it's probably there's age involved in it. I'm sure. I mean, that has to be. There's no way you can have, because I mean, one of the teams, he's on the Bantams when he's 10, so you can't have a fucking 18-year-old playing with 10-year-olds. You'd kill them out there. That would be pathetic, too, I would think. You wouldn't want to be.
Or you get your ass kicked by a bunch of 10-year-olds, and that doesn't feel good.
That doesn't feel good. Yeah. You end up like Kramer on Seinfeld when he took karate class. Nobody wants that.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this White Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. We're going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles.
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
Sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Behind the closed doors of government offices and military compounds, there are hidden stories and buried secrets from the darkest corners of history. From covert experiments pushing the boundaries of science to operations so secretive they were barely whispered about. Each week, on Redacted, Declassified Mysteries, we pull back the curtain on these hidden histories. 100% true and verifiable stories that expose the shadowy underbelly of power. Consider Operation Paperclip, where former Nazi scientists were brought to America after World War II, not as prisoners, but as assets to advance U.S. intelligence during the Cold War. These aren't just old conspiracy theories. They're thoroughly investigated accounts that reveal the uncomfortable truths still shaping our world today. The stories are real. The secrets are shocking. Follow Redacted, Declassified Mysteries on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Redacted early and ad-free right now on Wondery Plus.
So he did all of that. One guy said that played against him in the Bantams said that Bobby freelanced, meaning that when the Bantam game ended, he would go join the midget team in the next game. He was on all these different teams. He said after that was over, he would skate back on the ice with another older team of juveniles, so 2 up. The one guy said, quote, he used to play hockey practically all Saturday morning. Some mornings he'd score 25 goals in 4 different leagues.
Wow.
That's what we're talking about here. This dude is...
So you could probably play up, but you can't play down.
Oh, yeah, you could play up, definitely. Yeah, that's always... But no way you can play down. So, but in this, he just...
I want to try. I want to board some 8-year-olds.
Let's go, kids. Let's see what you're made of. They'd still skate circles around you. He'd be out of breath laying on the ground.
Stop going so fast.
Trying to trip him with your fucking stick. You little bastard.
Penalty box the whole game.
You little bastards. So,
how do you do that?
Oh, man, that's awesome. So he played minor league hockey in Belleville and then junior B hockey. So that's the lowest kind of close to professional level.
Right.
For the Woodstock Warriors in the fall of 1954. He was only 14 years old when he started doing this. So he was this is crazy too. This is wild because different sports, it's different things. In football, you have, 3 years before you have to be out of high school for 3 years before you're eligible for the draft. And, basketball, you have to be out for 1 year now and all this sort of thing. Well, he was scouted. The Chicago Blackhawks chief scout, Bob Wilson, saw Bobby Hull when he was 11. 11, they're scouting kids in hockey.
NHL scout for a real team.
Is that an 11-year-old's hockey game?
Not to see his own kid.
Not even to see his own kid. No, it's just like to actually watch the hockey, which is fucking crazy. This guy saw Bobby and decided to, let's sign him now. Let's, behind the scenes, like we'll draft him later, but let's have everything worked out ahead of time, which is, again, what they used to do there. So they talked to his father, and they didn't tell Bobby that his father didn't even tell Bobby. This was all done behind Bobby's back.
You're not even going to tell the kid he's got a job already?
His father gave Chicago permission to draft him because they needed permission because he's, a child. He should be in the fucking 6th grade. That's why.
He's still eating Uncrustables.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh, huge. That's a treat. That's a treat. He grabs a Pop-Tart on his way out the door in the morning, and he's psyched about it. If there's an Uncrustable in there, he's like, holy shit. Fuck Pop-Tarts. What a day! This is so much better than a Pop-Tart. So, yeah, he's doing, again, his brand is Peppa Pig, and they're fucking...
Yeah. Macaroni and cheese is a meal to him still. This is nuts.
A good one. So they end up doing that. That's so weird. From that day on, basically, he's willed to the Blackhawks. They own him from elementary school, which is fucking crazy. At 14, he's finally sent to Hespeler, Ontario, which is 170 miles away, to live with some strange family at 14 years old and play hockey. He has to go to school and play hockey for the Chicago, minor league team. And all of this, he gets paid $5 a week. So
but he's got a job.
You sold your son as a hockey pawn for $5 a week. I wonder
for $20 a month.
I guarantee you they gave Dad something. I guarantee you they fucking gave his father something for him. But
something
he just
that
didn't
makes
get it.
His job at the concrete plant fucking time.
Oh, back in the day, that was very common because people's dads used to be their, for lack of a better term, their agent back then. They would everybody back then would say, yeah, it was my dad negotiated my contract. They'd come over, sit at the kitchen table, and your dad, who's a cement worker or a factory worker or a farmer, would now sit down with some guy whose job it is to make financial fucking deals, and that's an even playing field now, and your living depends on your father's ability to negotiate with this man, which is insane. His mother said, quote, I wrote him every day, but I didn't talk much about what was going on in Point Anne because I was afraid of making him homesick. She said, one day Bobby wrote back, quote, gee, Mom, keep all those letters coming with nothing in them. So he said, gee, thanks for not telling me shit. Thanks for the small talk, bitch. What the fuck?
Don't open with the weather. I don't want to hear it.
I'd like to know what's shaking back there with the girls that I used to like, and maybe, I don't know, throw an Uncrustable in the fucking box with it. Don't be a dick.
Just throw the powdered cheese packet in there. I'll make the water. Don't worry about it.
I can boil water.
Yeah.
Jesus. So she said he was extremely homesick, though, at first. He's 14 years old. How would he not be homesick?
Out there with adults.
Out there with, it's really, there's guys that were 20 who are on these fucking teams. So he, in 1955, leads the Woodstock Warriors to the Sutherland Cup, which is the Ontario champions. Champions of Ontario, which in Canada probably means something because there's a lot of hockey going on in Ontario. I bet.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot, yeah.
He ends up playing for the Galt Blackhawks, and the St. Catharines Teepees in the Ontario Hockey Association as well.
Really?
Yeah. He will end up joining the Blackhawks at the age of 18 in 1957.
Stunning.
Which is wild here.
The Chicago ones.
Yeah, the Chicago fucking Blackhawks, not the Galt Blackhawks, the Chicago Blackhawks. In between, I guess these teams, if you were going to have a kid, indentured to you at that point,
right,
you still had to make sure they went to school. That was part of it. You couldn't just be like, we own you now, kid, no school. Just,
That's nice.
That's good. So he attended 4 high schools and was expelled from one of them for insubordination. Didn't graduate any of them, obviously.
Why would you?
Yeah, he had an appendectomy at one point in there.
Oh, my God.
That it was a big deal back then. You had to.
Yeah.
It's not like now where they just laser it. Now back then they cut you open. It was a thing. So
they can find out if it's just enlarged and hasn't exploded yet. If it's erupted, you're in a lot of trouble. That's what happened to me.
Deep shit.
But that I have basically the same scar he has, but his probably looks like it was done with a box cutter.
Well, I was going to say they probably did his with like a kitchen knife.
Right.
Like, I don't know. He had
some sort of fishing instrument.
We've been eating a lot of steak lately. These are pretty dull, but I think it'll do the job. Why not? It took the guts out of that trout last week, so I think we can take his appendix out. I think it's a good shot. So he has an appendectomy. One of his coaches, Rudy Pilas, who was his coach at St. Catharines, accused him of being a ball hog or a puck hog in this particular case, and also suspended him for what he called, quote, indifferent play. He gets called it's weird for a guy who skates the fastest, has the hardest slap shot, hardest wrist shot, and scores just about the most goals. He's accused of being a lazy player a lot.
And doesn't fight.
That's part of it. That's part of why he's accused of being a lazy player. Because hockey's one of those games, and kind of goes that way with like Northeastern and Midwestern football players too, like on teams. If a guy is less skilled, but will go out and, give himself brain damage for your entertainment on a weekly basis with zero regard for his body, he will be beloved. Period. Yeah. But a guy with a lot of skill who even just gives the impression that he might not be giving 180%, they're a fucking pariah and hated. Everyone hated Alex Rodriguez because you should hit 65 home runs every fucking year. If you have 43, we hate you. That's the way it is.
At least fucking bat in October, sir.
Well, they did win a World Series.
October.
So I think he was the World Series MVP when they won, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least the ALCS MVP that year.
But when they didn't, it's because he couldn't fucking bat.
It's because they never had the pitching.
October.
No, they had bad pitching. I'm a Yankee fan. Trust me. I watched it. I'm not a big Alex Rodriguez fan at all.
He would disappear in October constantly.
Not really, man. He wasn't the greatest, but look at the pitching.
Yeah.
If you're losing 11-2, it's not that Alex Rodriguez didn't come through in October. Because if he went 4 for 4 with 4 homers, you still lost the fucking game. Is the problem? Their pitching's been an issue since about 1999ish, around the 2000 was the last. It's been an issue since then. Let's just say. But I'm not an A-Rod fan. But that's the thing is a guy like that. You hate him. But if there's somebody scrappy with a little less talent, holy shit, do we love that guy. It's just it's always been the way it is, And basketball's the same thing. They love that scrapper. So anyway, he's not the scrapper. He's the skilled guy that everybody can take shots at when he's not perfect. Yeah. So one day, September 1957, he spent the morning working out at St. Catharines in the ice rink and played a high school football game later that afternoon. So he was also playing high school football.
Double fucking athlete. What is he doing?
Imagine a guy is signed to an NHL team and he's also letting juniors in high school take shots at his knees. Imagine that. Like playing a sport that has nothing to do with what you're doing.
Ice-covered fields. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
the chances he's taking with his legs is crazy.
This isn't a wide open game, I'm assuming. This is a lot of pile-ups here. So he ends up back at the boarding house, because that's where he lives. And in the middle of dinner, he gets a phone call from a Blackhawk scout, Wilson. And the Blackhawks are playing an exhibition game in St. Catharines that night against the New York Rangers. And he's like, listen, why don't you suit up and hang out and come to the fucking game? Now, he's already played hockey and football today. But he says, sure, what the fuck? He finishes his dinner. And so he's got, he just ate a full dinner and played multiple sports that day. He goes out on the ice and scores 2 goals against the Rangers.
Jesus Christ.
And so, I
just ate dinner. I've played sports all day long, and I'm going to go play a real-life game.
With professionals.
Season consequences.
With 30-year-old men.
Right.
whose fucking ability to take care of their children depends on this. There's a lot.
30-year-old. I'm going to go play against 30-year-old alcoholics.
Who probably drank before the game, haven't shaved in 3 days, and have very few teeth to their name. Right. This is the no helmet. This is when goalies didn't wear helmets, Jimmy.
Wow.
Goalies just had their heads out. Imagine that.
Fuck, man.
They're saying Bobby Hull, by the way, is one of the guys that kind of made it so goalies started getting more safety equipment because he had 117-mile-an-hour slap shot. Wow. There was goalies getting their skulls cracked open by his fucking slap shots. So that's you just dive out of the way of that if you have no helmet on, right? You just say, fuck this. This big stupid glove isn't going to help anything. This is ridiculous.
We've had incidents where when they have helmets on, where like a goalie's throat gets slashed, and there's just blood all over the fucking ice. I can't imagine how many watermelons were smashed with nobody had a helmet. Jesus,
look at the pictures of goalies from back then. Their faces they all look like they just had a 12-round championship boxing match. But that's always what their picture looks like. Any time of day, year, you just check it out. Snap their picture. They look like that. They've been beaten and pummeled and lumpy. And
how did it take so long?
Fuck, you think the first time a guy got hit in the head with a puck, he'd go, Jesus fucking, he's shooting that thing at me. You gotta give me a helmet or something.
Somebody's hit. The first time somebody takes a shot on goal and goes, we're going to put somebody in front of that? We should certainly put some shit on them,
I would
right?
think. Well, they give them pads and a big glove and a bigger stick, and they're like, that ought to do. The goal is but the goal is short. You keep your face above the goal, you should be fine. They're going to be shooting low. What a fucking psychopathic thing to think, right? The goal's low. I mean, I'm sure nobody will shoot high by accident and catch you in the fucking throat with it or in the teeth.
I'm going to have you squat down and try to keep these hard rubber-ass pucks out of this net.
So
with
crazy.
Your face.
They're frozen, too, just so you know.
Right.
And
you'll be frozen. You won't feel your face.
No, you won't feel it at all. So his number is number 9, very famously. He's big famous number 9, but he originally wore number 16 and then switched to number 7 and then switched to number 9 because he loved Gordie Howe. And that's what Gordie Howe's number was. So that's how he became number 9. He, in 1960, 59 and 60, he led the league in goal and point scoring. So that was huge. He also did it in 61, 62, 65, and 66. Wow. He's badass here. On the ice, amazing. And the stories about him off the ice, he's just a man. And he talks about his cattle and his ranch, and he gets up at 7:30 every morning to go. He's just Mr. Man. Here is something that he did that's a good thing. In August of 1960, he saved the lives of members of his family when a gasoline leak in his 22-foot boat exploded.
What?
His boat exploded while his family was on board.
He had a gasoline leak.
He had a gasoline leak in a 22-foot boat. So that's like the mob fucking, blew it up or something. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's not a big boat. That's a little, that's a small boat. And to have a gas, how do you not notice there's a gas leak on that?
Fuck, I mean, his nose was probably broken, but everybody else on the boat probably should have picked it up.
Yeah. His sinuses are constantly just they're crooked. They're tied in a knot.
Fuck yeah. He deviated my ass. His septums are exploded. He pulled a cousin out of the boat and dragged his grandfather to shore as well. His mother was severely injured on board, too severely injured to be pulled from the boat into the water. So he swam out and pushed the boat to shore.
Holy shit.
Couldn't get her out, so he just got everyone else, then pushed the flaming hulk of this dead boat to shore with his mother in it.
Wow.
That's strong, That's pretty strong. That's strong legs. You can skate across a bay and shit like that. You got to have some strong fucking legs to do that, man. And cardio.
To push it across, yeah. I mean, there's current, too.
A boat,
and you can't, it's hard to push a boat.
While you swim, because you have nothing to lean on. You have the force of you.
You're pushing
just your
water.
legs. You're making your feet into an outboard motor is what you're doing. Right. That's wild.
That's moving.
So he said, I'm sorry, this is his wife later on said, quote, "I don't know how we lived through the fire. Bobby and his father reacted so quickly they saved us all from getting killed." That's shocking. Good. So 1961, the Chicago Blackhawks win the Stanley Cup. And, wow. I mean, he is walking on fucking air right now. He can't lose. He's literally dragging a burning boat to shore to save his injured mother. Like, it's wild, man. He dragged his grandfather to shore. He's now
a champion.
If you're a champion at anything in Chicago, by the way, you don't even have to be a champion. If your team makes the playoffs and has a memorable run in Chicago, and this isn't an insult, this is a huge compliment, they love you for forever.
Yeah.
Like Rod played there for a year and a half, but he was on that 98 team. He had 51 saves and, was a big cog on that fucking team that made the playoffs with Sammy Sosa and Kerry Wood and all that shit. Right. He could, when he went there to do the Cubs Day thing that they have for all the old timers there, he would have to sign autographs till 2:00 in the fucking morning. They loved, and this was, this was almost 10 years later. They just loved him. It was crazy. He said, I can't pay for a drink in that fucking town. I can't. Wow. He goes, it's insane. They just remember shit. It's
Brian
wild.
Urlacher likely is the same way, right?
It's how it is. Mike Ditka, think about it. Like, I mean, if Jim McMahon walks around Chicago, people will be like, "You want me to carry you? I'll just get on. Hey, get over here, you fucking disrespectful asshole. Pick Jim McMahon. Help me pick him up. We're going to carry him on our shoulders around, okay? Yeah, we're going to go do just a lap around the bean, all right? Okay, let's do it."
He dropped his pink and yellow Oakleys. Put them back on his head for him.
People would so fucking do that now. If if McMahon just went, just carry me quick, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, sure, here, come on." 85, fucking, they would carry him around.
Carry me quick.
Asking him questions about Willie Galt and shit, and he'd be like, "Okay." So 1962, whatever the fuck this is, the Chicago Festival of Leadership declares him Chicago's leading athlete for 1962.
Is that right?
I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's a big organization, but it was listed places, so I had to add that.
They have the Cubs, and that guy's the most important. Huh?
He's the leading athlete. Yeah, they have the Cubs. They have the Bears. I mean, George Halas, he's not an athlete, but he owns everything, and they have all that shit. So it's at this point where people around here want him to go into politics. Some of the local political people are talking to him, "Hey, you should run for office. Everybody loves you. You got this great clean-cut image. It's perfect." One guy, they said, named Red Kelly, they said he had a seat in the provincial legislature while he was playing for the Maple Leafs. They said he'd go from practice over to the thing and he'd do his job and he could do all of that. And Hull said he couldn't do it, though. He's like, "I play in Chicago. I'm not going to have to, get on a quick plane to fly to Ottawa to fucking vote on something. That's crazy. It's too much. The logistics can't do it. I don't want to do it." This is an interesting one. Something that happened to Hull in a bar. A bunch of his friends said here. He's a drinker. Okay. Yeah. But once the stories like this are like, this adds to your legend in a good way. If you're like a tough guy athlete, this isn't bad. Mm-hmm. He said, quote, "One day after a White Sox game, a bunch of us were sitting around a Michigan Avenue bar having a few when this guy comes up and starts getting pretty obnoxious. I tell him, 'Get lost, creep.'" Sounds like something a woman would say to a guy. "Get lost, creep." It's weird.
A 7-year-old.
Or a 7-year-old. And he looks at me and says, quote, "You know something, buddy? You're a And he doesn't say. You're, I guess, a curse of some kind. I reach across the table, grab his tie, give it half a turn, and cork him one. There you go.
What a 1930s thing to say.
I gave it half a turn, and I corked him one, see? I corked him good. He came in, I said, I'll tell you what. I gave him the what for. That's right.
He said that with suspenders and a bow tie.
Then he started flipping a nickel. Yes. See what I mean? I'll tell you what. He said, then it gets even more. He says, quote, then I slam his head down on the table and it breaks a couple of beer bottles. Jesus. The last I see of him, he's crawling out the door on his hands and knees. Later I find out he's a small-time hood and packs a gun. I've never been back there since.
He just beat the shit out of a guy that's armed.
He just beat a guy up. I don't know. He might not be armed at the time, but he might have been going to get one. So he said, yeah, that was it. I never went back to that bar again. Decided not to. So 1963, in the playoffs against Detroit, his nose and basically all of his face is just shattered. He's
just destroyed.
His face is broken in by a stick. So,
oh, God.
Yeah, he has his face smashed in by a hockey stick.
He got high-sticked.
Yep. He was in bad shape. They thought that he's done for the series. His face is broken, all of it. Like,
right.
He's not coming back. He missed one game. And then he showed up in Detroit for the next game after that. They were like,
Still swollen.
What are you doing? And then for the rest of the series, he scored 8 goals, 3 of them in one game.
Wow, with his eyes swollen shut.
I don't even know how he could see. Yeah, I don't understand it here. Also, they talk about some wild times. One time there was a train ride from Boston to Montreal, and Bobby and a teammate named Ron Murphy broke into a case of railroad flares, for emergencies and shit there. They lit them and threw them into their teammates' rooms. They're little tiny train rooms. They lit them and just threw fucking flares in there, which
somebody's fucking stateroom,
filling the tiny room with toxic fumes and fire hazard. Maybe there wasn't a gasoline leak on that boat. Now that we're thinking about it, maybe he's like, "Hey, look what I got!" And he
road flare
blew his fucking boat up. So this, of course, caused a huge thing on the train. Everybody had to run out, filled the thing with smoke. They thought there was a fire. They had to stop the train.
Well, there was a fire.
Yeah, $599 worth of damage. This cost the team, and the general manager called a team meeting about this. He said, "All right, who did it?" And Bobby says, quote, "I decided somebody better say something, so I piped up. I did, sir." And he said the GM just said, "That's all I wanted to know," and walked away.
Have a good day, guys.
Have a good day. Wanted to make sure it wasn't anybody on the edge of the roster because we could cut them. But it was the star player?
See if I could save some money. I cannot. I will be leaving.
Never mind. All right, moving on.
See myself out.
That was it. He's never heard about it again. That was it. Now, here's the thing that doesn't come up much, and because it's not in his image. He meets, this comes up a lot. He meets his future wife, Joanne, here. Now, they talk a lot about him and Joanne. He makes a joke later because everybody says Joanne was the key to his image. So he makes a joke that everybody says Joanne made me a millionaire, but I had $3 million when I met her, is what he says. So that's bullshit. I had it, which he didn't have $3 million when he met her, but that's his way of saying, I was doing fine before I met her. Before all of this, before he's even 20, when he's in the minors, he has a wife. He's married and divorced and also has an illegitimate child floating around out there somewhere, is what everybody says. That's what all the press says. So he's got a lot going on, but they don't even mention that. That doesn't fit into the narrative here. So
yeah, the narrative has to be perfect.
It has to be perfect. So he meets his wife Joanne. She's a figure skater. As a matter of fact, in a show in Chicago. That's why she's there. He says, quote, "It was Christmas time. Joanne was performing in an ice show in Chicago. I showed up at the arena one day for practice, and there she was, swinging on the ice. And they were married 2 months later." So, yeah.
It's easy to fall in love with an ice skater's ass.
It's impulsive, yeah. Oh, look at those thighs. Okay, that's I like that. 2 months later.
He turns around and you're like, oh, sorry, Sergov.
Yeah, oh, Jesus, my bad, Sergey. Oh, boy. She said he was only making $8,500 the year we were married and $12,000 the next year. So, by the way, he's the leading scorer in the league, and that's what he's making.
$12,000.
Yeah,
wow.
That's how it works. Back then, they were saying how who was it? I think it was Ted Williams or whoever. In the late 50s, the top baseball player is making $100,000 a year. Top hockey player in the whole league is making $25,000 a year. So that's the difference. Hockey isn't a giant TV sport too. It's regional. Canada's only got a lot less population. You don't have all the same things. So anyway, they end up having 3 sons in 4 years.
Okay.
Or 3 sons in 3 years, I guess. Yeah, I guess it would be. They have Bobby Jr. up first, of course.
You betcha.
You think this fucking guy's not going to name his kid after himself? Not after his dad, after him. Junior. Juniored him up. A year later, they have Blake, another one. And then 2 years later, they have Brett, who is, as we know, I think he probably a fucking Hall of Famer, probably maybe, or near close to it. A very good and accomplished hockey player in his own right in the NHL.
His third one.
That's his third son. Yeah, That's the third one. They end up having more. They have a daughter. They have a son. They have more here. They all his boys have B names. The youngest son's name is Bart.
Oh, just ran out of them.
Ran out of B. Brett, can you think of another B name? Bart? That's kind of I guess. It starts with B. Write it down, Bart. She said Bart's a B name. Jesus. So they have all of this. They say at this point, this is when we start getting some press accounts of their idyllic little life. One said they lived in a surprisingly modest 3-bedroom bungalow in a working man's suburb of Chicago called Addison. They own the house, but live there only during the hockey season.
Yeah.
So they're just real humble, down-to-earth folk. You know,
so set on bees. He even bought a place that's a bee.
But at all,
a house. He needs to buy a bungalow.
It's a bungalow. He was very upset.
One more baby, we're gonna have to name him Blackbeard.
Well, he was really pissed that he had to live in Addison. He's like, "There's not a bee town anywhere near here. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. How about that? There's one for you. Bullshit."
You live in Addison? I thought you liked bee things. Yeah, I know. It's bullshit.
It's bullshit that I have to live in Addison.
That's what makes it perfect.
I call it bullshit Addison, and then it starts with a B. It makes me feel better. See? It keeps coming. So they describe, this is right from an old article, quote, Joanne is a slim, frank, outspoken girl, blue-eyed and freckled, with short auburn hair. By the way, this is from a press article. A lot of stuff we're going to talk about is from a book, by the way, called, quote, The Devil and Bobby Hull by The Devil and Bobby Hull by Gare Joyce, Gare Joyce. A lot of this comes from. So, just to give credit where credit is due, my friend. So, where is this here? I lost my place. There, okay. So, oh, wow. She was an ice show skater and met Hull 6 years ago when the show played Chicago. The boys, whom she calls my mutts, those are the kids, my mutts, are an enormously energetic handful, built along their father's burly lines, all with light blue eyes and great thatches of hair so blonde as to be almost platinum. By the way, that's not even true. It is when the reporter sees it, but it ain't all natural. This image is so cultivated, and it's ridiculous, man.
They're dyeing children's hair?
We'll talk about it. Let's build the image first. Let's build the image of the family. These cherubic, platinum-haired, light blue-eyed,
angelic even,
running around the fucking place, and she's a down-to-earth hot figure skater calling them my mutts. This is just all so folksy. Quote, when they're my mutts.
Real loving.
When they're indoors, they roam across the living room's royal blue rug like balls of prairie thistle in a high wind, yelling, crying, laughing, slugging one another, standing parade ground, still for admonition, tearing off, okay? Wailing, giggling. In short, they're boys. So, yeah, it's just boys can destroy your house when you're back in the 60s, and that was considered
poetic
normal.
way to say these children are fucking they're
out of
hellions.
control. Yeah. Joanne, with the help of a quiet, bespectacled girl named Sheila Borette, who lives year-round with the Hulls, battles gamely to maintain law and order with her mutts, running the motherly gamut from cajolery to high-pitched shriek, kissing them, belting them, fawning on them. Jesus Christ.
Shit.
Hauling them apart by the hair? I don't think that's allowed. If anyone wrote an article like this now, you'd be arrested before the end of the first day it was on newsstands. Slumping to the couch at the end of a day when the three sweet-faced boys are bathed, have peered, scrubbed, and angelic at Lassie and Walt Disney on the color television in the living room, have been bedded down and hugged and kissed goodnight. So that's what that's the image. Is he's out doing his hockey stuff, and he's got this amazing, awesome little wife at home that'll pull her kid's hair and knock him around and shit. He's got a nanny, and just at home, it's just like you. It's one of those articles.
Right. Yeah.
Aren't your kids unruly and running around, and you're tired at the end of that too?
We're relatable as fuck.
That's what he lives in, a little house, and his kids are unruly. So another thing they talk about is the ranch. In one article, he's very proud of a picture of a brown and white bull here, which he said, quote, it's a Hereford, Hardy and Hereford. It's named for Hardy and Jean Schroeder, who developed the breed. This one weighs 2,200 pounds. He's 2 years old. The man who owned him before I got him refused an offer of $75,000.
Holy shit.
I don't know how much he paid for him, but they say that Hull's passion for purebred cattle is a vital part of his life, as the kids is just as vital a part of his life as his kids that are in this picture that they're saying. So they said he bought a 600-acre farm near the eastern Ontario community of Demorstville, not far from Belleville, in the area of the Bay of Quinte where he was born and raised. Okay. There you go. So Hull and his brother, Dennis, they bought it together. Dennis, by the way, by now is in his second year with the Blackhawks as well. Oh, yeah, nice. So he's got his brother playing with him. They bought 160 cattle to stock their ranch, and they have 7 bulls in the herd, which Bobby estimates are worth $120,000 for all of his bulls. Not each, but yeah. He said his prime interest in cattle is in their breeding. He likes to search for new and productive bloodlines.
Gross.
He said, quote, this is likely the best herd in Canada, and I'd argue it's the best in the world.
Okay.
There you go. They talk about his home life. He doesn't. Jimmy, what do you think he is? Do you think he likes putting on a suit and going out to a 5-star restaurant and doing business things?
Well, does he dress like a Texas oil man when he goes out, or does he does he go out?
He's a backyard burger flipper. What do you think, Jimmy? You know,
he's got to kiss the cook apron.
Oh, you know it. Come here, but he's got dress pants and dress shoes on, like in the '60s while he's doing it.
Those white loafers.
He says he can't get home fast enough. Quote, I come home from everywhere in a hurry. I don't like big hotels or fancy dining rooms. I'm uneasy in them. I'm just like you. I'm folksy. Quote, he feels most relaxed holding a hockey stick or wrestling a calf. In the spring, he fixes fences on the farm, reseeds the meadows, plants corn and oats and hay, drives tractors, plows and combines, working with his brother Dennis, his brother-in-law Bill, and a friend Ralph Richards. In addition to the grazing pastures, he has 75 acres of corn and 75 acres of oats, and he takes off 10,000 bales of hay. Bobby tattoos calves, indenting their ears with pinchers and applying indelible ink. He supervises the breeding of the cattle and watches his kids romp.
Ew.
He drives the 4 miles from his summer home on the bay to the farm by 7:30 every morning and returns in the early evening. His sister Maxine, who lives with her husband Bill on the farm year-round, feeds the youngsters and the men around noon.
My God, you know what I didn't hear anything about is fucking sleep. When does he rest?
Not at all. No, they're trying to, this is the 60s. They're trying to tell you, this is Bonanza. He lives in Bonanza.
Yeah.
Think about the marketing here. This is totally his family, his sister-in-law, or his sister's ringing the dinner bell for, come on, come and get it. And they all fucking come on. They all ride in on their horses and dismount and fucking eat at the table, dusty, and then ride back out. Got to go reseed some more fields and
wrangle the herd.
Got to go wrangle the herd now. See you at dinner. See you at supper time. That's how they're trying to make it out like he is. He's Bonanza, period. So
he was hip-hop's biggest mogul, the man who redefined fame, fortune, and the music industry.
The first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy built an empire and lived a life most people only dream about.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But just as quickly as his empire rose, it came crashing down.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I made no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
Until you're wearing an orange jumpsuit, it's not real. Now it's real.
From his meteoric rise to his shocking fall from grace, from law and crime, this is the rise and fall of Diddy. Listen to the rise and fall of Diddy exclusively with Wondery Plus.
A few miles from the glass spires of Midtown Atlanta lies the South River Forest. In 2021 and 2022, the woods became a home to activists from all over the country who gathered to stop the nearby construction of a massive new police training facility, nicknamed Cop City.
At approximately 9 o'clock this morning, as law enforcement was moving through various sectors of the property, an individual, without warning, shot a Georgia State Patrol trooper.
This is We Came to the Forest, a story about resistance.
The abolitionist mission isn't done until every prison is empty and shut down.
Love and fellowship.
It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
And the lengths we'll go to protect the things we hold closest to our hearts. Follow We Came to the Forest on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
He said he's considering buying more property as well at this point. Said 220 acres, he thinks. He could put half his herd there. And he said that he and his wife were discussing it. And he said, quote, it's a big pile of money. They want $150,000 for it.
For 220 acres?
of good land. Yeah, that would be.
Holy shit.
Back then, though, that was like, $2 million. It's a lot.
It's like $10 million today.
Oh, absolutely. So he said, quote, she said, I keep telling you it's because you're Bobby Hull. Tell them you don't want it and they'll come down on the price. He said, oh, Joanne, people aren't like that. And she said, the hell they aren't. So this is how they go back and forth. But see, they're just like you, Jimmy. This is all so expertly planted, like subliminally. Back then when people were way more naive to marketing back then. Yeah, right now, you read a fluff piece article on somebody now, you sense the marketing, the buzzwords.
Right. You can find it, yeah.
Back then, if you couched it in something like this, people bought it fucking full sinker, man.
Twitter's already annoying me. I a guy that I really like just posted a picture of him and his dogs and is like, here's a picture of me and my dogs. When I'm at home, I really like to, and then it's a dog food ad. I'm like, Joe, why are you doing this to me?
Stop doing this.
I just want to see your dogs.
That's what I mean. But back then, people were, they didn't know what was happening. It was being sold very hard. This is just like you, not only they're tired after a long day with their kids. They work hard. They get up. He's mending fences and shit at 7:30 in the morning and the dinner bell. And then also they're worried about their finances. Ooh, that's kind of a high price. Ooh, we're going to have to negotiate. Don't know if we can quite swing that. Just like you.
Charging me that because I'm Bobby Hull? Is that why?
Just like you. That's amazing. So he said, Joanne, this is the article, Joanne turned to me. Bob doesn't think anyone would try to ever take advantage of him. He's too, modest, is what Joanne says. He really does downgrade himself. It's the difference in our upbringing, I think. Bob's dad's way of being an admiring father was to tear him down a little. My family was always praising me, so I give him that. I praise him. For example, I honestly feel he's worth $100,000 to hockey. And then Bobby jumps in and says, oh, Joanne, for Pete's sake. So this is so carefully fucking, Joanne, don't you say that. Don't act ungrateful about what we have. And, don't act like I'm a big deal in all this. But it's also just like your wife would want to prop you up. Just like it's so, oh my God, it's calculated as fuck. And she
also,
said,
because half of that 100,000 goes to her probably.
She said, yes, you are. And they were like smiling here.
She rubs his knee and shakes it. Yes, you are.
But the owner of the team is James D. Norris. She goes on to say, but he wouldn't tell Mr. Norris that. He and Mr. Norris get along great, but he wouldn't ask for $100,000. That story from Hawaii last summer about Bob wanting $100,000 a year, that wasn't for real. He might have muttered something about $100,000 being a nice round number, but he doesn't really think he's worth that. He wouldn't actually ask Mr. Norris for that. And
come on, Mr. Norris.
Come on, Mr. Norris. Jesus Christ. He said that he makes endorsement money and stuff, so he'll be okay. They asked him are you usually calm when you're at home? Because you seem calm now. And he said, yes, I guess so. Nothing really bothers me here. So it's all good. This is my peace, my salvation. Now the wife jumps in here, Joanne, and says, quote, if he doesn't score any goals, he's unbearable, which is great. I love
sits around this house bitching all day.
Once again, though, this is because he's so like you at work. You care about doing a good job because you want to be the best, just like everyone out there does. This is, again, that way you know that he's not just, I don't care what happens, I'm some athlete. He takes it seriously, man. This is it's so calculated.
It's beautiful because there's no athletes today that do that, but it's because we know what they have and we know what they make.
We know exactly what's going on.
You can't be an everyman, Steph Curry. You can't do it.
Ain't happening. Don't try. We get mad if you try.
You, LeBron. I saw you in a movie.
But back then, you could get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot house and, wave at your neighbors and everyone like, he's just like everyone else. And that's how it was.
Right.
So she said, and he doesn't score any goals. He's unbearable. He's not fit to live with. And he knows he can't be talked to the day of a game. He just won't admit it. And he says laughingly, Joanne, you imagine things. And she says, oh, Bob, nobody dares to speak to you on the day of a game. You're impossible to talk to. And he says, grinning, well, you bug me. And then they're laughing.
Oh, God damn.
She says, quote,
sick.
She says, quote, yes, I know, dear, smiling, but you'll admit I bug you most of the day. I bug you most on days of a game. This is like they took writers from a terrible 60s sitcom and they said, we need a fucking back and forth because this didn't happen. This reporter did not go over there, sit in their living room and take down the way this happened. This is some fucking guy.
Needs a laugh track.
After Lucy went off the air, this is someone who needed work, and they were like employing him to make up fucking stories like this. Is what it seems like to me. It's crazy. It's like the old wrestling magazines, like the 70s, 80s wrestling magazines. They'd have like an interview with this guy, but they never interviewed that guy. They were just do an interview of what in his voice. They didn't care. That's how it worked.
We're going to make you say some shit. Don't worry. We won't make it embarrassing.
No, it would be whatever pushed their character along better. That's how they did it. So she then crossed to him and sat on his knee. See what I mean? But she's going to give in to his thing.
She's going to sit side saddle on his lap knee. Too? Oh, my God.
And she said, quote, you didn't even kiss me hello at the airport. I almost was coming for your autograph. So they're even his wife. See what I mean? That right there, I almost puked reading that whole thing. I'm like, this is the most manufactured, calculated. Either a reporter went there and they acted this whole bullshit out based on some shit that they had planned out earlier, or this never happened and this guy just said, I'm going to write an article about your family. You're going to fucking love it. You're going to look like you're going to be smelling like roses at the end of this fucking thing. Let me tell you what.
Yeah, this article brought to you by Ajax at your local market.
Clean it right up. So March 12th, Jimmy. Mm-hmm. That's a day. March 12th, 1966. He becomes the first NHL player to score more than 50 goals in a season.
Really?
Yeah. Maurice Richard, Rocket Richard, and Bernie, I don't know how the fuck to say that, Geoffrion, and also Bobby had all got 50 goals before, but no one has had more. His 51st goal against the Rangers earned him listen to this, it's a home game. 51st goal earned him a 7-minute standing ovation.
7 minutes.
7 minutes of standing ovation.
That whole host set.
That is fucking crazy. That's like I watched an old game. The guy, was it the Patriots guy who got his neck broken? Stingley.
Yeah, Darryl Stingley.
Stingley, when he came back to a game after he had been, they thought he was going to die and everything, and then he comes back, he's in a wheelchair, they bring him up, he's in the press box, and they do a thing and announce him. And they had such a long-standing ovation that they tried to run a play and couldn't hear anything and had to wave it off and just wait till the fans were done. The fans literally, because they gave it like 2 minutes and then they were like, okay, let's start playing again. And the fans were like, we're not fucking done cheering yet. We don't care about what's going on.
Sitting right there.
Yeah, so that was a thing that I remember. That was really cool. But this is 7 minutes. That's wow.
That's so much time.
Yeah, he scored 54 goals that season, which was the highest single season total ever at that point. And that same year, he set the record for most points in a season. It's with assists with 97. Which was one more than the previous record, which was a 7-year-old record. So, not bad at all. His slap shot around this time clocked at 118.3 miles an hour.
Oh, my God.
For all you non-U.S. states people here, 190.5 kilometers an hour.
Holy shit.
Fast as fuck.
You're not even allowed to drive that fast anywhere but the Autobahn.
He could skate 29.7 miles an hour, which is 47.8 kilometers an hour. And his wrist shot was claimed to be harder than most slap shots, which it was. Mm-hmm. The average slap shot was like 90 miles an hour back then. Mm-hmm. His wrist shot was 100.7 miles an hour. So that's just a flick that's a wrister. I mean, you're not even hauling back on it. So, there was a game here where the whole crowd was just like one of these, like, how the fuck did that happen? One of his slap shots hit somebody's stick and ended up in the 34th row of the stands. That's the kind of force that was on it.
Holy shit. It smacked it out of his hands and flung it fucking 35 rows deep.
He hit a slap shot and the guy deflected it with his stick, and off the stick it shot, off his stick it shot fucking 34 rows.
Oh, it put the puck up there.
Yeah, the puck. Right. Yeah. So, not the stick. That would be amazing. It's so hard. I'm like, out of his hands, and then I just pictured it. He's got a grip with the gloves, and pow, and it just... He looks at his hands. Oh, my God. That's a special effect in a children's show.
That would be like shooting it out of your hands with a shotgun.
Yeah, that would be the same thing. So it was a big deal here. One goalie, Loam Worsley of Montreal, he got hit in the face with one of his shots 3 years before that. And he says the only reason he wasn't killed was that the flat side hit him instead of the edge.
Wow.
That's the physics saved his life.
Yeah. Wow.
More surface area. Minnesota goaltender Cesar Miniaggio, he was knocked out for several minutes by a Hull shot that just glanced off the top of his head. And after that, started wearing a face mask against Chicago. Only against Chicago, though. Against Hull shots, he wears the old-timey, Jason Killer cereal mask, goalie mask back then. That's where it came from. Bobby said that he knows he can hurt somebody. He understands he could kill somebody with it, but it's, what's he going to do? He can't worry about it. Right. He's playing the game. He says, I'm certainly not out to maim anyone, but the goalies take their chances. Don't stand there if I'm shooting it, motherfucker. So one guy here, a New York guy, sports writer for the Herald Tribune, he's been writing about hockey since the Rangers started in 1926 in Madison Square Garden. He says, the plain fact is that anytime Hull gets a shot, it's a potential goal. He is the most spectacular player in the game, and he may be the greatest from this point of view that hockey has ever known. In spite of the fabulous Rocket Richard and Gordie Howe, Hull is a popular figure with the crowds, too, even when he is murdering the home team. There's never been a faster skater or one with stronger leg action. It's very likely that Hull fires that puck faster than any man who's ever played the game. So that's how he's thought of.
High praise.
Here's another thing, though, about his energy. Like I said, they say that he loafs sometimes. They said that sometimes they think he's loafing. And he says, no, it isn't loafing. It's experience. You don't waste energy. You pick your spots and you go when you know you have the edge. It's an instinct. You get so that you can anticipate when you should outrace somebody or outbody or outmaneuver somebody. You can sense your opening and react. There's a lot in knowing what you yourself can do. If you see an opening, something tells you you can make it or not make it. And being in shape is the most important thing. If your legs aren't going fluently, nothing ever gets coordinated. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he's just saying fucking why skate fast to a part? Why waste energy skating hard to something that I don't need to skate to when I can use that energy to shoot between two guys and score a goal later?
I think you should be efficient. And
that's one of those things where if a guy is producing, I think you just go, well, that's how he does it. That's the good way to do it, I guess. So his dad here, this is fucking funny. His dad, this is in the early 1970s. His father is criticizing his son, Robert, his father, criticizing Bobby to the media publicly.
Oh, don't do that, Dad.
He said, quote, he should score 2 or 3 goals every game, but he stinks the place out every time a gang from Point Anne comes down to see him. Wow.
We drive our asses all the way to
stinks it
Chicago.
Out. Wow, that is fucking wild.
But I drive down here to see him score 3-4 times, and he gives me nothing.
Doesn't do shit. Skates around with his thumb up his ass.
Yeah.
So this is when his endorsements, these are why these stories are important, because then you get endorsements. It's worth big money. He's making way more in endorsements than he makes in hockey at this point.
Yeah.
Way more. He's got his own, I guess, the Monroe company that makes table hockey games. He's got his own, model of those. Okay. He's got Bauer skates. He's got his own model, which makes sense there. He and his son do a Milk Duds commercial together. Yeah. They go out on the ice together and they're eating fucking Milk Duds for whatever reason. I don't know which son, but someone's eating Milk Duds. Whichever one's cutest. Yeah. He does Algonquin beer, does ads for that.
Sure.
This is fucking hilarious too. He's got a bunch that are very funny here. One is a hair product. By the way, he's losing his hair rapidly, but he's doing.
Oh, I fucking relate. Now we're the same guy.
Fucking hilarious.
It has now been 7 minutes since you said he got 7 minutes of applause. Can you imagine? That is so long.
It's a long time of applause.
We've talked about so much shit.
You'd get bored taking that much applause by then.
That's so long.
So he did let's see here. He's got, what is this? He's got sticks, pucks, T-shirts. Yeah. He's got all sorts of shit. He said in this year, I think it was 67, he was going to make at least $50,000. Yeah. And then he signed a several-year, 6-figure contract with a Canadian company to produce a whole line of Bobby Hull hockey gear, specialized pads and all that kind of shit. Another one that's fucking funny here is the Janssen activewear, which is hilarious. Janssen, Jan, what is it? TZEN. Yeah, Janssen. There. This is fucking great. It's him and shirtless, by the way.
Yeah.
On a Hawaiian beach. By the way, this shooting of this ad is legendary later on because something very awful happens here. So it's him in a bathing suit, shirtless. Next to him is Jerry West in the middle. The
basketball player.
The basketball player. The NBA logo is what he is.
Yeah.
And then Frank Gifford, who was the New York Giants star running back and then did Monday Night Football forever and then was just known as Kathy Lee Gifford's husband.
And the lover of anal.
And he loves him some anal. I'm looking for the Red Dawn right now, and he just went all up in Kathy Lee Gifford. So they're all standing there, okay, and it's pretty fucking amusing the picture of them, as we'll show you here because I have a picture. Jimmy, roll your chair over.
What is this?
Think I'm not going to show
this?
Hockey,
basketball, football guys.
There it is. Okay. Now in the middle is Jerry West, looking pretty thin because he's 6'6", and he's a basketball. He's a 6'6" basketball player.
Right.
He's holding a skateboard, a mid-60s skateboard, which is very frightening looking. Then to the right, to Jerry's right, here we have Frank Gifford, who looks confused as to why he's there.
Where are we getting anal, boys?
Gifford and Hull are, look at them. They're talking and laughing. And Frank's like, huh? What happened now? He's just thinking about that girl's butthole right off out of frame here.
Over there. Yeah.
Bobby is holding a surfboard. He's a lot shorter than them, too, by the way. He looks a lot shorter. Definitely thinning hair. Look at his arms, though. Guns.
Wow.
Look at those things.
He looks like an athlete.
He's got wrestler arms, and his thighs are fucking huge. Look at Frank Gifford's skinny thighs. How are you plowing a ball through an offensive line with those skinny fucking thighs?
He's got a chest like I do.
That guy was a legend. Look at him.
It's unbelievable.
That is fucking wild. So that's for Jansen Sportswear. Those three.
Nothing says hockey sportswear like standing on a beach in Hawaii
with a surfboard.
Yeah.
So the best, though, is he's balding pretty rapidly and becomes the celebrity pitchman for dandruff shampoo.
Oh, okay.
One of his very few problems that he doesn't have here.
Yeah.
That's fucking funny. So the world is his oyster. They come over, they tell all these stories about what a wonderful guy he is. He skates the fastest, shoots the best, looking muscular on the beach next to fucking Frank Gifford. Everything is wonderful. Couldn't get any better. He's a champion. They want him to be the fucking mayor. Grace. Grace.
What a life he's having.
Triple grace, man. It's all good. So there is 1968 is now we'll talk from then on. Joanne, there's a reporter that talks to Joanne about Bobby and hockey, and the reporter asked, "Is there a bit of worry about him, like on the ice?" And she said she does worry. Quote, "Bob has had some bad injuries. I'm upset about his treatment by the opponents on the ice. It's unfair to the game and it's unfair to Bob." She said that she was worried about hockey's violence, and she said that neither of them like it in hockey, the violent part of it. She just doesn't understand it. She says that what do you do when he's on road trips? And she said that they ask him about her. Is he going to retire soon because he wants to be a farmer? And she said that their country life is marvelous, and she's looking forward to retirement. She said that she thought spending time on the farm year-round would be, quote, wonderful for my boys. And then she said her and her husband were looking forward to, quote, becoming full-time farmers.
Oh, my.
So, but now let's get the but part.
Yeah.
But she hates the fucking farm, Joanne.
Yeah, she
hates it. She's born in L.A. and raised in Chicago.
Stop it.
Doesn't give a fuck about farms. Yeah, and
he
also
took that lady to rural-ass Canada?
She's an ice skater in a show. You know how they grow up. They grow up. Your family has to pony up a lot of money to send her to an ice. It's not a rural thing, really. She didn't learn on a bay. She had to be in a rink for that type of shit. She didn't like the farm. She didn't want to retire there. She had no fucking interest in that. Oh, the platinum-headed kids. Remember those kids? Very platinum-headed. Joanne actually dyed Blake's hair blonde so that it would fit in neater with the other kids. Can't have two blondes and one kid with brown hair. That'll look terrible in pictures. So you want...
He's dyeing his fucking hair.
You got to say 3 platinum blonde. It just flows better for media.
And this kid with an inch of roots.
Yeah, we got. All right, Jesus, touch your shit up, Blake. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So that was better for the commercials and all that sort of thing. And the other problem is that there was some violence at home, from what everybody found here. And let's talk about why reporters don't report things that they see back then. Like you were like, why would they hide that? Well, here's a former New York Times sports columnist, Robert Lipsyte, and he said that sports writers were delivering what was expected and desired. He said that the public, quote, is primarily interested in the affirmation of their faiths and prejudices, which are invariably based on previous erroneous reports. So whatever your brain wants to see, that's what it wants to see, whether that's the right thing or not. Right. I was watching this show, and they had some idiots it was at a Best Western Plus in like the middle of Idaho, so it wasn't a big deal, but they did a Mandela Effect conference. Okay, where like 14 very sad people gathered in a room to talk about how the Mandela effect, if you don't know what that is, I don't know, whatever, but it's the Mandela effect is when a collective memory. Yeah. There's the million different ones that Sinbad was in the fucking genie movie. There's the Berenstein Bears instead of the Berenstain Bear. All those, right?
And Mandela died in prison.
Mandela died. And by the way, that one, that Mandela died, but he was. I don't remember thinking he was dead at all. I thought he was alive. I don't remember that one at all. The one that it's named for is the one I remember the least about that. So I always thought he was alive. Like I never thought he was dead. So anyway, they have this conference, and these people, rather than just saying, wow, my memory sucks because I'm a human being and memories suck, and people can't identify, people when they see murders take place, they can't identify the murderer because that's not how your brain works. So rather than you could be mistaken from a 20-year-old memory, they think that it's an alternate timeline that we shifted into. Well, we can't all remember that. So it's an alternate timeline that we've shifted into. That's literally what it was. Right. And one guy's proof was Stouffer's. Stouffer's they don't make stovetop stuffing. The stuffing, that's craft. It's a craft product. It's not Stouffer's, but I remember it as Stouffer's. You remember it as Stouffer's because stuffing and stovetop together say fucking Stouffer's. So in your head, you think stovetop stuffing, Stouffer's. That's also a brand who makes shit like that. That's why you would remember that. That doesn't mean it's fucking true. Right. If I think I remember,
your brain just tries it to get there, right?
Yeah, your brain tries to make connections. Like back in the day when you download video files and it would come in little sections. They'd be like, "Oh, it's missing a piece," but you'd have players that would try to play it anyway and skip that part. That's what your fucking brain's trying to do. It's trying to fill in the missing piece of the file.
It's trying to put it together to keep you alive.
Yeah, but your brain's running Windows 95 is the fucking problem. Like now, that's what it's running on like a DOS startup with dial-up fucking modems and shit and like 56K.
Wi-Fi.
It can't.
Exist.
It doesn't exist to your brain. Your brain is an old computer that can't take Wi-Fi and it belongs in the garbage.
Ethernet cable.
or a modem. And so it's got a modem in there. So rather than people just going, oh, I've been shown categoric fucking proof that I remembered mistakenly, they go, must be an alternate timeline because my brain is perfect. That's how fucking crazy people are. That's who we're dealing with.
Yeah,
those people are allowed,
so it has to be everything else.
Must be. Those people are allowed to fucking vote. They're allowed to have children. They're allowed to
drive a car.
They're allowed to drive a fucking car, Jimmy. Think about that.
They can just show an ID and go, "I'll take this alcohol, please."
Yeah, my speedometer might say I'm going 90, but I really feel like I'm going 58, so I'm going 58. Like that's not how shit works, man. My brain was exploding, yelling at the TV, going, "You're fucking don't remember, you asshole." Period.
Isn't it funnier to say you don't know? Why do you do it like this?
They were getting up going, yeah, I mean, it has to be an alternate timeline. It's a split. And right here, and they're discussing, they had these charts, Jimmy, with graphics of a fucking wormhole, black hole, wormhole, this, and it scoops around to I'm talking people with had these physics problems all out and all this shit. You don't remember.
It's not
That's it.
Hard.
You just all fucked up your memory.
Stop making it something it's not.
Stop. It's just Jesus. Rather than us all going, isn't it funny? It would be more. I would like the people more
God,
if they
the entertainment value is so much more.
Well, if they all just got together and go, oh my God, can you believe we all thought that? I know, I totally remembered that, but it's not that. And what else is like that? Well, they could have had a fun time and had some beers, but no, they sat around drawing fucking charts about how it's crazy, man. It's fucking crazy. So
we are such assholes.
That's why this guy is right. Because if your brain thinks something, you don't want to be told something else. Yeah. You don't. That's why people watch whatever news suits them. They watch whatever. It's on every side, all spectrums. It doesn't matter. You want confirmation of your own shit. Right. So anyway, they said that. They said that he said the buffing of the image of star athletes wasn't a purely cynical exercise on the part of the media either. It could even be considered sympathetic. The reporters rode on the same train as the players. Their wages were about the same as the players. This is back when they would live in the same neighborhoods. They made the same amount of money.
Wow.
So the reporters and the players had a camaraderie. It wasn't they're above us.
Pals. We're equals.
Yeah, we can't even get into that player's gated community. It's not that back then. Right. It was, oh, yeah, I drink at the bar with that guy. Yeah, we go to the same corner bar. He lives in my neighborhood. That's literally what it was like. He said they'd socialize with them. They did unto the players what they would have wanted for their own. Albert Schweitzer called the quiet conscience the invention of the devil. But for sports reporters, erring on the side of discretion was once an expression of kinship and occupational necessity. Robert Lipsyte once described the attitude of the press corps, quote, we're all of the carnival and the rubes are out there. Mm-hmm. So it's comedy. We work behind the curtain.
Right.
Audience is there. That's exactly what it is. It's
definitive line. And the fucking
it's wrestling.
writers are
it's
the
wrestling.
Same people?
We're the workers. They're the marks. Yeah.
Wow.
Because they're doing it together. They're building up each other's industry together, making the same amount of money, hanging out, drinking, trying to make those people think that you're an upstanding person and the greatest thing in the world to do is watch hockey.
Oh, God, I can't wait to hear the rest of this.
It's great. Now, that's all we've given you. Now, who is actual Bobby?
Well, we can probably let our imagination wander, but why don't you tell us, James?
Basically, if Don Draper had a violent streak, that's Bobby. We'll put it that way. He's a ladies' man, number one. He loves to go out with the ladies. He fathered at least one child while he was in his teens that we know of, but possibly more. They said he's very profane, a lot of profanity, pretty rough kind of a guy. The press corps, they knew who he was, but they liked his original image because it was easier to write about. His wife, Joanne, told Michael Farber of the Montreal Gazette in 1980, quote, he was a true gentleman at the rink. I don't know if it was good that he carried that appearance all the time. At home, he had to let his hair down, so he kept the public image of being a golden angel, and I think it was unfortunate that sometimes the children and I paid for it. Yeah. Not good. One reporter later on would say, of course he didn't write about it at the time, but he told a story that he witnessed in a parking lot. This was a parking lot next to a Montreal bar after a Hawks-Canadiens game. I guess, some of the players went to a bar next door.
Right.
On the way out, Hull walked out with some woman who wasn't his wife, obviously, and chased down Worsley, the goalie, who is the guy that he almost killed with a puck at one point. Chased him down. The guy had just sat down behind the wheel of his car, and he was trying to put his keys in. And Hull popped up next to the door and said, "Don't go home, Gump." That's his nickname, Gump. "Don't go home, Gump. Let's go get laid."
You and her.
Problem was, no, Gump had company, and it was his wife in the passenger seat.
Oh, no.
So
Bobby, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, what are you doing in the car? We're getting laid tonight. And he's like, ixnay on the fucking aid lay. Please, Jesus Christ. Are you kidding? That was a cold ride home for old Gump Worsley. Bobby Hull fucked that guy, almost killed him with a puck, probably got him divorced. That poor bastard.
Ruined his marriage if it does stay together.
How do you play that off? That guy's crazy. I don't even talk to him. I don't even know what he's talking about.
Who was that crazy guy?
So, yeah, his wife in the passenger seat. That's a great story.
Let's
go get laid. And he's like,
I am, man. My wife's here, remember?
No, I won't be getting laid tonight now. Thanks.
Well, that was the plan a minute ago.
That was what we were. Now it's over, though.
No, it's not.
Fuck. Blew that one. Red Fisher of the Montreal Gazette, who's a reporter, he said, quote, "The stories were out there. He liked to drink. He got ugly when he was drinking. He fooled around, but there was nothing we could do with that. Like, we couldn't report that, is what he's saying." One guy, Jim Kernaghan, he said, "I really think it was the tenor of the times. His marital troubles were known and discussed by the players and the media. With something like that, though, unless criminal charges are filed, we wouldn't write about it." I know from experience of looking for arrests, a lot of times, even if charges are filed, they don't fucking write about it back then. They didn't, because you didn't want to show up at the locker room next time for after the game to get a quote and be told that you're not welcome in here anymore.
Right.
And that would happen. Then what do? You're going to get fired because you can't get the quotes after the game.
The scoop. Right.
They can ruin your career in 2 seconds, or make you have to go to another place, another city. Another guy here, a newsman in Winnipeg named Vic Grant. He worked for the Jets. He worked the Winnipeg Jets beat there for the Free Press and Radio. He said that it's bullshit that players are saying they didn't know about Bobby Hull. He said, though it wasn't reported in the papers or over the air, he said the story of the Hull's marriage was common knowledge in Winnipeg. He said, quote, there were incidents in public. Well, I was incredulous about what I saw between him and Joanne. Here's one story. Quote, they were yelling at each other at airports. He'd tell her to go fuck herself and she'd turn around and do the same in the middle of the airport.
Oh, man.
Go fuck yourself. It's time to re-dye Blake's hair. He's looking, I can see his roots. Let's go.
Yeah, my kid looks like Blake Lively. Get home.
Yeah, come on. He goes on to say it wasn't just the team and the reporters who were around either. There would be dozens of people around. No doubt word got around the city, although a lot of people thought of Joanne as the evil temptress because of Bobby's image. That's the other thing. He's this all-American image, or all-Canadian, I should say. And we all knew that the trouble wasn't Joanne. It was Bobby Hull. If what he did to Joanne played out today, Tiger Woods would look like a saint by comparison.
Oh, is that right?
You can tell when this was written,
Yeah.
when all the Tiger Woods shit was coming out. So that's what he's saying. He said that this guy went on to say that Hull's cruelty extended beyond Joanne and also to the sons, and the public saw him. They saw him in public, so they thought he was fine. Grant said, the one boy that I knew fairly well was Bobby Jr., the oldest, so his son. Bobby Jr. played on a team with the sons of some of the other players. He wasn't the best. He was a good kid, but he wasn't the smartest kid. He didn't stand out in any particular way. Bobby taunted him. He basically told Bobby Jr. that he wasn't good enough and that he didn't mind who was around when he said it.
Well, so did this author.
Jesus Christ, that's fucking brutal. He wasn't the smartest.
Right.
So his father would help him, and this one makes fun of him rather than that. This is
bullies him.
Yeah. He says, I didn't see a lot of admiration for Bobby Hull because I saw what the public didn't see, just like his teammates did. He was a hard man to admire, and I doubt many of his teammates did, even though they would never admit it.
Yeah.
So 1970, Joanne files for divorce. This is in the midst of the 3 platinum-haired fucking Milk Dud commercials. This is all in the middle of everything, and they later reconcile, and it doesn't really come out publicly till about 8 years later that she even filed for divorce. Whereas today, that's going to be in the news.
For sure. Yeah, they'll keep an eye down at the fucking Justice of the Peace to make sure.
Yeah. Now, a nanny who worked for the Hulls at the time witnessed firsthand the cause of the divorce filing, she said.
Oh.
Here we go. Apparently, she had gone with, Joanne had gone with Bobby to Hawaii to shoot that commercial for the Janssen Sportswear.
Yeah.
This is from the nanny. Quote, she came back from Hawaii where they were shooting Bob for Janssen's menswear advertising. He'd been physical with her. She came home with a big black eye. We took pictures of it.
Oh, my.
Joanne confirms this and said, quote, I took a real beating there. He just picked me up, threw me over his shoulder, took me in a room and proceeded to just knock the heck out of me. He took my shoe with a steel heel and proceeded to hit me in the head with it.
Oh, my God.
What is he, my grandmother? You can't fucking do... Unless you're a woman over the age of 65, you're not allowed to hit someone with your shoe. I'm sorry.
That's like a steel stiletto?
Yeah, with a wow. I was just covered in blood. Jesus. Wow. It gets worse, if that's possible. I can remember him holding me over the balcony, and I thought, this is the end. This is the end of me. Thought she was drop her off the balcony. That is horrifying. Who did almost that exact same thing with somebody's? Was it Tyson? Oh no, Tyson jumped off the thing, and I'm thinking Jim the Anvil Neidhart also did a jump off deal. That's disturbing, man. So they separated then, and the nanny went with Joanne to California to look after the boys. And Bobby, on the other hand, wanted to get his wife back here and his family back. And the nanny described it by saying that they were going to get back together once she agreed that he was in charge. He said to her, quote, "You don't do the things I want, and if I say I want something, you should do it."
Yeah. Frank said he gets anal. Your turn.
Yeah, your turn. So either way, yeah, she's saying, he's saying, I'm in charge and you have to do whatever I want, and that's our relationship.
So he wants a subservient wife to just do whatever he says.
Yeah, that's not happening here. So not at all. On many occasions, though, they'd been having problems. This is the nanny, quote, "One time, Joanne told me to call the police on him. When I picked up the phone, he ripped it out of the wall. I said, go ahead and hit me. That'll make a nice headline. He laughed and dropped it. Another time I called the police and they came, though they didn't charge him with anything. They really didn't help at all. Just were sort of standing around making jokes with Bob. Joanne didn't stay at home that night, but I had to stay there to look after the boys. I was terrified, but the strange thing was the next morning he was sheepish. Like a lot of these fucking abusers are. Yeah. The next morning they're, oh, Jesus, I don't know what I was thinking.
So right.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. The next morning isn't the problem, the part that matters here.
Right. This is cyclical.
Yeah, that's the thing. Oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. It'll never happen again, and then it happens again. That's the whole cycle.
I love you. Right. Until I'm mad again.
So, yeah, this is the OJ thing too. Like the cops came, but they knew OJ and they made jokes with OJ and they hung out. They talked about his Heisman Trophy and the fucking Rose Bowl and shit. These guys show up. They're hey, it's Bobby Hull. How's it going? And then they leave. That's it. The nanny's account here, she has an account of this as well. She said, I did call the police many times. I remember him yanking the phone out of the wall with one hand, and in the other hand, he'd have a handful of my hair. That's what Joanne's quote is. Yeah. So he was a phone ripper out. So you couldn't call the police because he'd rip the phone out of the wall and physically keep you away from another one. So
that shit's illegal today.
Yeah. Oh, that's an extra charge. It's big time. But back then, that was how people got their wife to not call the cops when they were beating the shit out of them. They ripped the phone out of the wall. So, yeah, they said that Joanne later on would say, she told ESPN later on, quote, he was a womanizer. I asked him, have there been any recently? And he said, you'll never know how many. Jesus Christ.
That's torture to do to somebody and say it like that.
Fuck, man.
If she asks, just fucking tell her. She knows you're doing it. Obviously, it's something that's whatever.
What a nightmare. So his son, Bart, says, quote, my parents should have never met. That's a lot.
They named me Bart.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't. Their relationship sucks so bad. It would be better if I was not born. Preferably, I'll take the L on this one just to save everyone else. Now, Hull's daughter Michelle is a really big advocate against her father. So not an advocate, advocate for her mother. Adversary to her father. Does not like her father at all. Later on becomes an attorney that handles domestic violence cases so much.
I wonder why.
Yeah. She's outspoken about the treatment. She says, quote, a lot of bad memories stem from how my dad acted when he was drinking. She works with battered women now. She said, when he had been drinking, you just didn't know, you just knew that you didn't want to be around here. And Brett Hull, the NHL star, he talked about his parents' divorce and everything like that, and he said nobody should live in an environment that's not healthy. That's as far as he would go, but we knew. Now, the nanny also says that even if it wasn't just the physical abuse, he was also a terrible husband in other ways. Quote, it was just the fooling around. He could be very hard. It wasn't just the fooling around. He could be very harsh and critical. The breaking point for me was when he ordered Bobby Jr. to his room. I went to talk to him, and Bobby Jr. said, my father doesn't love me. He thought that he and his brothers were what made the marriage unhappy. I couldn't take working there anymore. I felt like I was enabling Bob to be abusive to them.
My God.
What a terrible fucking way. But then, a lot of times, these fiery relationships I shouldn't even say fiery, these abusive relationships, there was something in the beginning. There was the kernel of what got them together in the beginning. Because nobody just walks up to a woman, grabs her by the hair, and smacks her, and it's like, you're going to be my fucking woman now. Listen to me. Like, that's not how it works.
Right.
So there's has to be something that attracted them to begin with, to then allow this sort of behavior, or even just to get in the front door to have this sort of behavior happen. And the nanny knows what it is. And she says, quote, there was a sexual energy between them. I remember them arguing, and he put his hand between her legs. Her eyes just glazed over, and 5 minutes later, you could hear the bed springs singing.
Oh, it's a gross way of putting it.
Wow, that's a very old school. If this truck's a knocking, this van's a knocking. Wow. She said he always stuck to his routine on game days and didn't want any change. Steak, asparagus with cheese, salad, and ice cream. Then, from 1 to 4, he'd have his nap. He insisted on the house being nice and quiet, and he wanted Joanne to have a nap with him. After a while, you could hear bed springs again. So there's a lot of fucking going on here.
Yeah. He likes asparagus with cheese?
Yeah, he wants cheese on it. I guess broccoli's good with cheese. Why not asparagus?
I guess you could put romaine or something on it, too. Not romaine. Is it romaine? No. Romano. Romano.
Yeah. Or you could
doesn't have to be yellow cheese.
No, you could take a melted cheese. There's a lot of things you could do.
Sure.
So back then it was probably just a Velveeta, though, I think, because that's how. That's what they had in the 70s. Here's some Velveeta. So the nanny goes on to say, quote, Joanne told me that Bob had been raised in an abusive home, that his father was physically and emotionally abusive to his wife. So he says, that's how it was. And then the daughter, Michelle, said, I remember the stories of how his father treated his mother. It was exactly the way he treated my mother. He looked for a reason to hit my mom or hurt her in some way. Jesus. Not okay.
And so, like, white trash is a cycle, obviously.
Yes.
Domestic violence is a cycle, and it's bred into you, and that's what you are. You are what you are. To break that is really brutal. Right. It's hard to break that, and there's no reason to break it when what you're doing is you're successful at it.
Yeah, and that's probably it, too. And the fact that he was so ingrained with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't have the Todd Marinovich thing where Todd Marinovich eventually was like, fuck you, Dad. I'm not doing what you want anymore, and I'm my own man. That never happened.
My own career for it.
Yeah, I will fucking be homeless. I will have the cops know my first name from sight from a block away as they chase me.
From behind.
Yeah. Fuck, it's Todd again. That's the deal. So it's just so fucking crazy. And that's how these relationships are. That's how abusive things go. So 1970, back to hockey quick, they come up with the Bobby Hull rule.
Yeah.
Hockey does, because Hull and Stan Mikita, his teammate, did a thing where a lot of guys did it back then, but it really affected for some reason off of their sticks. They would curve their blades of their hockey sticks more, and it became referred to as banana blades. And they call it the Bobby Hull rule because they thought it was a potential danger to goalies. They said because the curved blade made the puck's trajectory unpredictable, and the goalies would get hit in the face more from it. So, and you get more goals.
Also, you've got a nasty sling on it. It's like those field hockey plastic ones that you had when you were a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The cup ones.
You just hit them with people.
You can really move that puck a little bit more with that banana.
Just fucking use them as a weapon. Mm-hmm. So the rule originally limited the blade curvature to between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch. At 1970, it was set to 1/2 an inch. Okay. And the current rule limits the curvature to 3/4 of an inch. So that's what it is. There we go. Now, his stats here, we'll go over very quickly because I'm not going to really get into this. He led the league in scoring here. Let's see, goals. 59-60, he had 39. 61-62, he had 50. 63-64, he had 43. 65-66, he had 54. 52 the next year. 44 the year after that. 58 and 68-69. And those are all league leading goal amounts here. Leads the league in points 3 different times that I see here. Not a ton of penalty minutes. I mean, he plays every game, and the most penalty minutes I'm seeing in a year is 68.
Wow.
Which is nothing. We've seen guys that have, fucking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. He's an all-star here. Let's see. Starts out in 59-60. He's not an all-star in 60-61, but then he's an all-star 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, NHL 12, 11 straight seasons after that.
Wow.
Couple of MVP awards, shit like that. He's got all the being in the heart and the Ross trophies and all that shit that he wins. He does a lot, essentially, here.
Mr. Hockey, Jesus.
Mr. Hockey. The thing is, the NHL still doesn't pay people shit. By 1972, they're still not paying anything here. And at that time, the World Hockey Association is cranking up. And one of their teams, the Winnipeg Jets, who will later be an NHL team.
Right.
This is the ABA of hockey, essentially, is what this is here. They said, well, fuck, let's steal Bobby Hull. He's wavering in the NHL. Let's take him. So they made him an offer, a 10-year contract for $2.75 million, including a $1 million signing bonus.
Oh, my, this is great.
Monster money back then. I mean, that's beyond the scope of anything realistic. He said, quote, I thought it was a joke. He said, I pretended to go along with it just to scare Chicago. Like, he thought, yeah, sure, I'll pretend like that's real. Then my agent said, Bobby, these guys are serious.
Yeah.
Like, you could actually do this. And so they did. Apparently, the other owners chipped in on it. This is what happened in the ABA, too. They would chip in on a player that they wanted for the league. So, it's a lot of fucking money here. The debut with Winnipeg was held up by litigation from the NHL, and so obviously he ends up playing for Winnipeg after that, though. Even after he gets this huge deal, there's still all that stuff I told you about Hawaii, just beating people beating his wife with a shoe and hanging her over a thing. The world doesn't know about that.
He is still silent.
He is still squeaky clean, Mr. Family Man Bobby Hull. They think him and his wife have the best marriage ever. There's an article here where even after all this money, they're still regular people. Joanne says, quote, he hasn't changed a bit. He still goes around turning off lights and telling me not to spend too much money. He raised my allowance to $150 a month, but I think I should get more. I'm negotiating an increase.
Okay.
She also says, quote, in the past, I think I was extravagant, but when you talk about household expenses going up to $112,000, Hull said his annual household expenses increased from $35,000 to $112,000 between 72 and 75. She said, that's not me. There's a lot of cattle in there. His expenses are buying cattle.
Feed is expensive.
Yeah. She said, of course, I bought the boys the best hockey equipment, the best ski equipment. If they wanted $100 ski pants, I bought them. Bobby used newspapers rolled up his shin guards. So
no, he didn't.
He didn't. Think about that in the paper, though. This guy, he does. My wife doesn't fuck, because this isn't women reading this fucking article. This is men.
Right.
So the one that was in like magazines, that's for women. The sports section one like this is for men. So this is men go, my fucking wife spends all my money too, and I gotta use shin guard fucking newspaper. This is bullshit.
I use the funny papers to wipe my ass because she uses all the money. There's no toilet paper in the house.
It's fucking ridiculous. She said, yes, I was extravagant, but within a set allowance. For the last year or two, 76, 77, it was $1,200 a month. That's 76, 77. Before that, it was $1,000, $750, and in 1972, it was $600. I had credit cards to major department stores, but how can you be that extravagant? I'm not saying we didn't live well. We certainly did, but I never had free access to his bank account. We did have a joint account, but that was only for the $1,200 allowance. He did give me blank checks with his signature to pay the bills, but I had to mark down on each check what it was for. I never liked that. I was afraid of losing one. He never wanted me to work, and I never had my own money. I did have antiques, and I still have them, but the basis for most of my antiques was an inheritance from my grandmother and my aunt. Mostly, I simply upgraded what we had. Where I was extravagant, I suppose, is that I wanted the best of everything for my children.
Of course.
That makes sense. So 1972 there's the Summit Series, which pits Canada's top NHL players against the USSR's national team.
Oh.
And because he left the NHL does not allow him to play in this.
Really?
They cock block him playing in this, yeah. So he was pissed about that shit. In 74, they did a second Summit Series, and this time they included WHA stars. Gordie Howe played, and he'd been retired for a couple years. He came back anyway. And the WHA lost the series 4-1, and 3 ended in a tie. So there you go. That's how that works. Hull had 7 goals and was a key member of the Canadian squad, who won in 1976, though. So good for him. Mm-hmm. Speaking of 1976, in 76, Winnipeg wins the WHA championship.
Is that right?
Yeah, he does pretty well there. 1978, he's made an Officer of the Order of Canada. I don't know what the fuck that is. No idea whatsoever. His
like a Boy Scout explorer.
Yeah, exactly. His jersey number 9, by the way, is going to eventually be retired by the Blackhawks and the Winnipeg Jets, and also the Arizona Coyotes, because that's the Winnipeg Jets.
Right.
So it's at this point in time, about 1977, where his wife files for divorce. Files for divorce, but then they just live together for another 1.5 years.
Oh boy!
Then it all goes through. One of it was one of the hockey guys here, one of the front office guys from the team he was from. He says, "quote He probably should have gotten a divorce in 1970." Since Joanne, by the way, Joanne asked for the divorce on the grounds of physical cruelty. So if that came out publicly, that would have been a nightmare for him. For them. So he said, quote, "We were in the room talking about it, and Morse, Arthur Morse, who's an attorney for the Blackhawks, drew up a list of Bobby's assets before a divorce, what he had then and what he would have later. That explained to him how expensive divorce is. Later, Bobby said it was too bad because we were the ones who talked him out of it." So they talked him out. They were like, "Bobby, you sure you want a divorce? It'll cost you." So Joanne said that they had not. They go back and forth on whether they lived together, because they bought a home in Winnipeg. Then they had a home in Vancouver because their youngest daughter is a very good figure skater. So Joanne wanted to be in Vancouver to be able to take her to this particular instructor and all this type of shit. And Bobby, I guess, kind of goes with them. Later on, the judge in their divorce will say the parties continued to have marital relations. They ate together, made trips together, went out socially together, appeared in public together, acted as parents of a family unit. They carried on as a married couple even after he left in November of 1977.
Okay.
Very strange here. So by October of 78, by Joanne's accounts, they hadn't been living together for a while here, and that was the debatable part. She did file for divorce 15 months before that. Their daughter, though, like I said, was a figure skater, and they did all that shit. And now he had also his obligations with the Winnipeg Jets, and he held on to his cattle interests all over the place, too. So basically, he's going to be in Winnipeg while his family's in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. That's how it is there. So, they thought they could make it work, but no. Here's another violent incident. Mm-hmm. Joanne said she never denied Bobby visitation rights, saying, that was the only time that it happened was one time he didn't give her sufficient notice. So she said, "You're not taking the kids today."
Sure.
So what he did, because she had plans with her family with the kids and shit. So what he did, apparently, allegedly, is he came over and broke down the front door of the family home.
Can't do that.
Yes, she had him charged with assault, but later on it was dismissed. So multiple times that happens here. Now he's talking about he's got to take a break from hockey during all this when it comes out, he says. This is in November 78. "I have always said that I would play the game as long as I continued to enjoy the game," he said. "So for personal reasons, I have not been able to devote my full attention to the game, and therefore, in fairness to my teammates and management, I feel that this is the right decision for all parties." He's going to step down. He's granted a 10-day leave of absence for personal reasons, and if the personal reasons are trying to settle details of a divorce. So he moved into a house outside Winnipeg that, at this point, that he now shares with a different woman, Claudia Allen, who is the estranged wife of a Winnipeg dentist. So he stole some dentist's wife, and he's living there. It's fucking hilarious. Joanne gets granted spousal support and child support, and she says later on she'll testify in court that the money rarely came on time, if at all. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you just pay your shit? Everybody thought he walked away from the Jets because of this. That Vic Grant, the reporter, says if domestic trouble was going to cause him to retire, he would have retired a long time before. It's not like this happened overnight.
Yeah. He needs companionship, Jesus.
Oh, yeah, he moves right into another woman. Now, they have a divorce proceeding, a court case with witnesses and a trial and the whole deal, right?
Oh, boy.
Here's something. This is what it says on the front. On the front page, you can tell there's a problem, okay? Counsel, A.A. Rich, QC, Cheryl Hall for Joanne Hull. So those are her multiple attorneys, okay?
Yeah.
For him, Robert Marvin Hull appeared in person. He's his own attorney.
Representing himself in a divorce?
In a divorce.
Oh, boy.
That might be it's smarter to represent yourself if they think you're a serial killer than in your own fucking divorce. Are you kidding?
You're about to lose everything.
Ted Bundy had a better shot.
You'd rather not have your freedom if you don't have anything else. What's the point of being a free man?
Take me. So why is he doing this?
Yeah, why?
A friend of his says, quote, Bobby hates lawyers. Well, a lot of people hate lawyers, but then when you need one, you use lawyers. You don't
people
just
hate
pretend
lawyers.
you're a lawyer.
People do not hate divorce lawyers. You love your divorce lawyer.
They love and hate them. That's a love-hate thing there. He said dealing with them was a necessary evil to get the deal done to come to the WHA. I guess he didn't think it was necessary in the divorce, though.
Uh-huh.
Wow. He had several lawyers, mind you. 5, the local newspaper said. Friends remembered even more lawyers, actually, that he went through for this divorce. Some walked away after he didn't pay them. He fired some, and some were trying to get money from him for other shit. 2 weeks before the case went to trial, the lawyer he was using, William Percy, who's from a high-powered firm and all this shit, he told the judge that he's removing himself from the case and petitioned the court for him to be relieved because he has an unpaid bill of $9,911.71. And it's been 4 months since Bobby's made any more payments. So the judge ordered this lawyer to stay on to represent Paul. Anyway.
You have to do it anyway. Just keep billing him.
Yeah, and advised the lawyer that funds directed from the sale of a farm owned by them would be directed to the firm. So, we'll make sure you get paid. Don't worry about it. We'll put that in his list of debts. So apparently, that's what pissed Hull off. At that point, Hull got up, yelled and screamed, told the judge that he lost confidence in Percy, and said, "I don't want a lawyer. I want to be my own lawyer."
Oh,
and yeah. So he's standing there in front of this fucking judge, not knowing shit about the law. And her lawyers must have been like, could you ask for a fucking better thing to happen?
Honestly.
Then the abusive fucking, overbearing husband now is so overbearing he won't even let a lawyer represent him because he's got to do it himself.
He knows better than a fucking lawyer.
Couldn't be any better. So his whole thing is Joanne's a gold digger.
Mm-hmm.
They've been together for 20 years, so that's hard to say that someone's a gold digger when they've been together for 20 years, and you have that many kids with them. They have 6 kids, 5 kids. That's too many kids.
And he won't let her work to make her own money, so at that point, she's not a gold digger. You're forcing her. She's slave labor.
Exactly. Hull's former nanny, who had to testify, did say that she did have expensive taste, but he made a lot of money. So it was, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. She said, quote, Joanne definitely had expensive tastes. Only the best suited her. In Chicago, he could go out and spend, or she could go out and spend hundreds of dollars on antiques, and then we'd have to figure out a way that Bob didn't find the receipts. That's pretty, that's nothing
shiesty,
out of the, so Joanne, though, said that, basically, all the people they hung out with, they were all high society people.
Yeah.
So it was you want your friends to come over and we have shitty furniture, and then they're going to fucking talk about you behind your back, and
it's mid-century in here.
Yeah, and you have to keep the kids up to date with all the $100 ski pants, so all the other people's kids don't call it. Yeah, it's one of that shit. You're keeping up with those people. So they said that the family she comes from is an old money family, and that's how she's used to having money is the reason why. So they said a lot of people that Joanne grew up with and her family might think that she married beneath her because he's a, quote, this is the former nanny, quote, I had a sense Joanne's brother looked at Bob and his family as country bumpkins. So the mother, Joanne's mother, looked at them as country bumpkins. So, yeah.
I mean, that's what the articles made them look like, but everybody knows they're not.
Well, back then they didn't. Arthur Rich, Joanne's lawyer, called her as a witness, and during his 3-hour, Hull did a fucking cross-examination of his ex-wife.
Oh, boy.
Which is going to look bad. They said that he stalked around by the witness box. Her attorney finally had to ask the judge to instruct Hull to step back from the box when cross-examining her. The judge did so, telling him to stay 20 feet from the box, and he would cross the line frequently. The judge would have to fucking admonish him, tell him not to do that. He grew combative over the course of his cross-examination of Joanne. One said, quote, it was as if he were out only to settle scores and drag up mud. He
Did you or did you not give me anal? Did you?
You didn't. Is it true? Isn't it true that Kathy Lee Gifford is a better wife than you? Isn't it? Isn't it true? So, and she's annoying as fuck, so that takes a lot of anal. He asked the same questions over and over again, and the judge got pissed off and says, quote, she doesn't have to give you the answers that you would like to have. You're bound by the answers she gives. That's court. You can't. So they said his line of questioning was actually counterproductive. He accused Joanne of coolly and calculatedly gathering evidence against him to use in the proceedings, going through his pockets and hiring private investigators. If it had called into question her intent, it only highlighted the fact that her version of offense was also very corroborated. So all he was doing was, you remember all those things that proved what you said that you did? Like, it's a terrible, dumb shit thing to say.
Remember when you went through my bank accounts and got all the information that I didn't want you to have?
Yeah. Then he does the crowning fucking cherry on top jewel here of what not to say in court. Yeah. This is like, we had a case where someone messed up and was like, that morning of the murder, I mean, whenever that murder happened, remember that? This is almost as bad. At one point, he says that, quote, he says this to her, you wouldn't have put up with all this abuse if I wasn't just a meal ticket.
Oh, boy. Wait a minute. Good. You can't say that.
Yeah, not good. Not good. He was saying it like
earlier when I punched you in the mouth in 72.
He on the way back from Hawaii. That was some kind of vacation. I had to tell Jerry West what a bitch you were at our photo shoot. Do you understand that? So he was saying it sarcastically, like you wouldn't have put up with all this abuse if I wasn't your meal ticket. But you can't. Again, not good. So. Again, bad. Validates that there had been abuse also. Terrible fucking idea. Digging himself in deeper and deeper into holes. Her lawyer took shots at him as well. And when he objected, her lawyer said, quote, this man has taken over and dominated this court in such a fashion as to make a mockery of it. This man comes here today and says, poor me, I don't have a lawyer, help me. Either this is a court of law or it isn't. He doesn't know any tactics other than those in the corners of an ice hockey rink. He said that Hull was good at those tactics, but that's it, not good in a court. So, yeah, here you ain't shit is what he said. Then they argued about their net worth. There was an advisor who put the net worth at $1.15 million, and he said no. Bobby said that's not true, but then eventually he fucking conceded that it was true. Oh my God, they talked about how their decisions to go different places. The lawyer asked him, "You had been supporting Joanne to that time before they went to Vancouver for ice skating. In any event, had you not paid the bills?" And Bobby said, lavishly.
More than she deserves.
The lawyer said, yes. So you not only paid for them, but you were responsible for all the expenses up to that time. She at least moved to Vancouver. Were you not? And he said, I expect a husband is responsible up to a point, but a well only has so much water in it. So, yeah, that's what he was trying to say here. Now, the other thing that's called into question is Hull owns a 1/9 share of the Winnipeg Jets.
Oh.
Valued at, that was how one of the things they got to get him there. When they gave it to him, it wasn't worth anything. It was a new league. It's like when they gave Rick Barry a piece of the Oakland ABA team, it was worth nothing. Like, gee, thanks. But at this point, it was valued at $430,000.
There you go.
Because the franchise was worth $3.87 million. So the lawyer said, quote, well, why don't you just give her some money and settle the whole thing? And Hull said, I'd love to. And the lawyer said, give her the Jets then.
Give her that.
And Hull said, she can have them.
What?
Okay. Now, that's not an official thing, but the judge is going to hold him to that later.
God damn it.
Again, in court, be careful what you say. There's a person typing it all out.
Yeah, she's got it all word for word. I mean, you can't read it, but she can.
The judge can go back and go, hey, Thursday at about 3 o'clock, what did he say? And they'll go, hold on. And then they'll give him a piece of paper and they can read through and go, you said this, this, and that. It's exactly what you said.
You said she can have them.
Oh, my God. So, another guy here, president of the Winnipeg Jets and a close friend of Hull's, Michael Go Buddy, of course, Gobuty. He likes anal too. Go Buddy. That sounds like what Australians call fucking in the ass. I'm going to go buddy. Doesn't it absolutely sound like an Australian ass fucking?
I pulled the Sheila over here tonight. We're going to go buddy.
We're going to go buddy. So this guy said he made lots of money and she spent an awful lot of it. Yeah. She was the white typhoon. She'd go and buy anything she saw if she wanted to buy it. And yet he didn't stop her. So in turn, whose fault is it? Jesus Christ.
Oh, God. Who cares whose fault it is? Just take the assets, split them down the middle, and go your fucking separate ways and shut up.
No shit, man.
Jesus Christ.
So on June 20th, 1980, this is 3 years after the divorce papers were filed, were served on him anyway, the judge finally grants the Hulls a divorce, effective immediately. He awards Joanne custody of Brett, Bart, and Michelle, allowing Bobby free and liberal access to the children. That's the quotes from the court documents. Right. He reserved the right to address visitation at a later date if Bobby was not provided free access to his children. There would be no later application, as it turned out, so none of that happened. The judge also told the parties that he would withhold judgment on Joanne's claims for maintenance, support, and equal division of property. He would take 4 months to hand in his scorecard, and the decision was fair. So, yeah, he does it. 4 months later, he does it. The judge, it's in this one article, it says, the judgment handed down by Justice Denisette barely disguised his withering contempt for Hull. Jesus. He said that at one point, Bobby said he had way less net worth and said, I'm going to bring in this financial guy to prove it. Okay. The guy was supposed to come in one day and he said, oh, he has a medical emergency and couldn't show up and kept making excuses for this guy. And the guy never ended up testifying.
Oh, boy.
So the judge is breaking his balls about that. He says, quote, the court knows little of the financial affairs of Mr. Hull prior to his coming to Manitoba. However, we do know that he was already a businessman, deriving income, fame, and advertising value from playing some of the most superb hockey ever witnessed anywhere in the world. He also had interest in farming, cattle operations, and other enterprises, such as public relations work and endorsement of commercial products. The judge said that they started making so much more money once he came to Winnipeg, and also hinted that he believed that Hull was lying about his assets and that he had more. He says, quote, before he came to Winnipeg in 1972, he already had a sizable home and some cattle business where he was using as a tax shelter and which he continued to use while residing in Canada. Unfortunately, we have little evidence about those operations in the USA. Mr. Hull did not give evidence regarding that. We know that cattle operations in Canada in the USA enabled him in part to avoid paying income tax in Canada while with the Jets, while he was receiving on average over $250,000 a year. The income tax authorities were satisfied. That may be, but it still leaves the court in the dark regarding profits and losses of what must be a sizable enterprise in the USA. While this business is conducted outside of Canada, it's still his, and the court has to take into all consideration of assets that he has. So he also says that he said that he doesn't think that Hull is telling the truth when Hull says that he can't retain dates and facts. Okay. Which he's been hitting the head a lot, and he didn't wear a helmet, so I bet he can't. Yeah. That's possible. When cross-examined about his cattle operations, he was vague and imprecise, and whatever, just didn't know what he was doing. So he's going to. Here's the financial settlement. He has to pick up the mortgage on the Vancouver home, $682.52 a month. Okay. Child support, $200 to $700 a month for each child, depending on the child. Spousal support of $4,000 a month as well. It's a lot back then. Quote, Mrs. Hull is used to a high standard of living, the judge wrote, and that it may have to be somewhat lowered when the divisions of property rolled in. Let's see here. Lump sum, by the way, he hasn't been paying child support or support for her. So they give her a lump sum of back support of $100,695.55. He's got to cut an immediate check for, and then start cutting all those other checks after that. So that's a lot.
That's what happens when you punch your wife in the face.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, one other thing the judge wrote, there will be a charge in favor of the wife against all of Mr. Hull's interest in his share of the Winnipeg Jets hockey club.
Oh, boy.
This charge will remain until further order of the court or by release of her. The judge said whether or not the franchise would be sold one day for four or more times its present value is unknown. 15 years later, the franchise was sold on the market for $68 million in the U.S., and the payoff in the judgment came on the last page here. Counsel for Mrs. Hull tells me that over 1,000 hours in time recorded, not including 5 days in trial, 4 days examination, and for discovery, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and then he has to pay he has to pay her legal fees as well, which is $30,000.
My God.
So he should have just paid for his own lawyer, and maybe he would have gotten a little bit better off. But no. So he appeals the whole thing. He's like, she's getting all this shit. So he appeals the whole thing to an appeals judge, and the judge says, wow, that's amazing, says to Hull's lawyer, he's got a lawyer this time, by the way. The judge is pissed. The judge says, quote, you don't throw a bunch of garbage at us and ask us to decide what's right. It's a lot of baloney. How can you do anything but draw the adverse conclusion that Mr. Hull doesn't want to indicate what he has? You're full of shit lying, so I can't fucking help you. They said that the judge said that Joanne understood more than he did, and she walked into the arena and was shown to the public. Why was she there if it weren't required for her to bolster his image? Basically, she built up the value of his household. So that's the way it fucking is here. So
if you don't prove it, then that's what you get.
So anyway, he is pissed off. Mm-hmm. He goes back to his place there, his house that he has with his new girl, the dentist's wife in Winnipeg there. He's super mad. He's sitting. It's a dark room. Can you picture it, Jimmy? There's dark wood.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
It's got like bookshelves, but there's no books on it, obviously. He keeps booze on it and shit. He's sipping at something, not even on the rocks. It's neat, boy, and it's fucking half a glass full, and he's strong, and he's sitting there in a room brooding on his couch in like a den office thing. And out of nowhere, through the window, glass breaks everywhere, and it's Andrew Theron, ice cream marketer and financial scam annihilator. And he says, how is it you've come to arrive here? What are you doing? I'm flying in the windows for... No. Hold on a minute. Where's your wife? Where's your wife? I swear. Not Joanne, the other one. The one you got in here. Joanne's been through enough. Claudia, get your ass over here. I owe you one. I'm going to tell you what. No, you know what? I'll tell you what, Bobby. I'm not afraid of you. Yeah. I'm not. You think I'm afraid of you?
From Boston. I play with the Bruins.
I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. First of all, I'm a Bruins fan. Bobby Orr, much better than you. First of all. That's first of all. I'm not, forget about everything else. Second of all, you out of your fucking mind? You can't beat up your wife like that. That ain't right. What's wrong with you? You know how that works, right? You know what I have to do now? You've heard. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. She looks like a nice lady. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to have to go over there and do what I have to do to her. That's not what I'm doing here. You're making me a bad person, Bobby. That's what I'm talking about. I don't like it. I'm warning you right now. You look at my eyes, Bobby. I'm warning you. I'll give you Scott Tucker's number, and you're gonna fucking understand what I'm talking about. You understand me?
I'll bring an Affleck boy, the one that's really bad to women.
Yeah, you don't like fighting. I do. Let's talk about that, Bobby. All right, that's it. And he backs away slowly, and then poof, in a poof of broken glass and grappling hooks. He's gone.
Sticks and cell phones.
He's gone, and Bobby is very confused and also a little bit frightened. He does not want to mess. And burner phones everywhere. Oh, God. So in October 77, too, Hull received $300,000 for the upcoming season and waived payments for the remaining 4 years. In effect, forfeiting potentially $1 million for an additional $50,000.
I don't want it. She's just going to take it.
He needed extra money that day, basically.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And the Go Booty said, quote, he needed some money. He didn't want to stick in Winnipeg. He wanted to be able to go on. He wanted to finish his career in the U.S. Tax reasons, yes, that's part of it. Right after he retired at the end of the year, but he could go on and do his own thing. That's what's transpired, so he stayed in hockey and got paid $250,000 a year. He's still getting endorsements, by the way, at this point.
Wow.
Still. Endorsements in 1979 brought him $78,211.
Mm-hmm.
Did TV commercials for Quaker State Oil, for Sears Bank in Chicago, Schaefer Beer. He did work for Tundra Sweaters, whatever the fuck that is.
Everlast boxing gloves. Oh, Tundras are nice.
Are they? Oh, okay,
yeah,
there we go.
Thick.
He said he was paid an insignificant amount for that, though.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, not very much, I swear.
Not very much. A little bit. Go Booty, they asked if he was still worked for Victoria Leather, which was the company that made shit. Go Booty said, I don't know. Good question. I hope so. I would like him to. He was never paid by Victoria Leather. He never received one dime. He worked on a friendship basis. I think Bobby's going to find himself. Right now, he's just hiding. He wants to get away from everybody and everything and try to find himself and compose his thoughts and maybe get back into cattle.
He's making no money. Print it.
Print it. There we go. He's out. Let's see. The end of his career comes. He ends up bouncing around a little bit here.
Yeah.
He makes a comeback with the Rangers in 1981 at the age of 42.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It lasted 5 exhibition games. Not much there. Then again, later on, he ends up... where does he end up? Christ, because he ends up with Hartford at one point, too. I know he gets shipped to Hartford from Winnipeg. It's a fucking disaster here. Let's look up exactly where he was. There's his numbers here. He was in Winnipeg, and then he got shipped off to Hartford. And then after that, he tried to make the NHL comeback with the Rangers, and that didn't work out. So in hockey total, he played 1,036 games, 604 goals, 549 assists. Wow. So 1,153 points.
He contributed more than a point a game?
Yeah. That's really, really good. That's not bad at all. So good for him, man. Or I guess whatever. So on the ice, he's really good.
I'd love it.
So the 1979, the leagues merge. Again, they become part of the NHL. The Jets become part of the NHL. And he comes out of retirement that year to play for the NHL Winnipeg Jets. And he played in 18 games before he got traded to Hartford for future considerations. And there's that. So, and then, like I said, September 81, a 5-game comeback here. Now, the president of the Blackhawks says, he's not surprised that he's going to, fucking retire. He says Bobby was going to retire every year. Every year he would come in at contract time and threaten to retire. He said, why should I make all the money when she gets it all? Jesus Christ. That's fucking amazing.
I know the feeling, man. I know it.
The Free Press wrote about him on his retirement. This is Rayn, Reyn Davis. He wrote, quote, "You're a champion in every household in the country." Probably not yours. Because you stand for excellence as an athlete, commitment as a citizen, a model of good health, and an example of fair play. Yeah. And his hair turned silver when he said that. So, yeah, he's going to do that. Anyway, Claudia, who is his girlfriend now, like we said, the estranged dentist's wife, she ends up, she hangs out at the farm with him. And Joanne Hull said in a May 5th, 1980 petition that Bobby financially aided Claudia Allen in purchasing a house in Winnipeg in 1978. So the newspaper learned that Bobby Hull held a mortgage made to him by Claudia Marie Allen on October 10th, 1978. And that in an interview, Joanne also says that Bobby spent $11,000 to purchase a fur coat and a diamond ring for Claudia Allen in December of 1979. So he likes giving the gifts out to somebody here. Yeah. Allen, who was living with Hull at the time, was living with Hull at the home of friends in Cheshire, Connecticut, after he'd been traded to the Whalers.
Wow.
They live there. She ends up being seriously injured in a car accident, Claudia does. So bad that it takes years for her to recover.
Oh, no.
He ends up going back to take care of her. Go Booty says he's living with a girl who was in a terrible car accident, and that's tough as hell on anybody. He bathes her. He changes her. I can't believe it. I'd bet 8-5 that after she was out of the hospital, he'd break it off. I really thought that.
8-5? That's
8-5. I'll give you 8-5. I'll give you 8-5 on. Yeah,
who's ever spit those odds out of their mouth that isn't a gambler?
Yeah, hardcore gamblers. Yeah. Bobby was so used to this. Is Go Booty's wife now, Go Bootyette. She says Bobby was so used to somebody looking after him, and Claudia did. She was so good to him, and he certainly really loves her. And she didn't have much of a memory. Oh, she doesn't have much of a memory. She said recently, "Why is he so good to me?" I said, "Claudia, you're so fortunate. He loves you, and you are so good to him." She doesn't know. It would have been easier to give her back to her family or to have someone take care of her. I was so proud of Bobby. So, very proud. 1983.
Why is that strange man so good to me?
Well, who is that? Yeah, it's... Why is Kurt Russell being so nice to me this time? That's totally what I picture. 1983, elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Is that right?
Absolutely. 1984, he gets married. Isn't that nice? No.
Oh, that's over.
That's over. Marries a woman named Deborah now. Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on big time, because in December 11th, 1986, he is charged with assault and battery of Deborah. After hitting his wife. Can't do that in the 80s as much. During a late night argument in the parking lot of their condominium. The police chief said there was evidence he had struck his wife in the face. She had some contusion, swelling and bleeding. An ambulance responded, but she didn't go to the hospital. And the other thing was, originally, he said once the car pulled, he said this police chief tells the media that when a squad car pulled up, that Hull put up, quote, some minor resistance, but there wasn't any physical altercation. Now, in reality, what actually happened, even the chief of police is covering up for you. What actually happened was he was shit-faced, knocked her around, the cops showed up, he took a fucking swing at one of the cops and then ran into his condo. They had to break the fucking door off the hinges and physically pull him out of the condo in cuffs.
Oh, my God.
That's what actually happened, which is way different than some minor resistance with no physical altercation. He tried to fucking punch a cop. Yeah.
That's what for a guy who doesn't fight on the ice, geez, he sure saves it up.
I think I don't know if that's what the fuck it is or what. So, March of 87. So he's charged with both domestic violence and assault of a police officer at this point, too. So, a month later, his wife drops the battery complaint against him. And, she says that she does not want to testify against her, and she doesn't want to testify against him. She said she doesn't want to do that. They can't force her to because they're married. That's that. So they simply asked her if she's being forced or coerced to drop the charge, and she said no. Right. But the police, they still have their assault charge against him, and they are not dropping it. They're not as forgiving as she is, apparently. So April of 1987, he pleads guilty to a charge of assault for taking a swing at a Willowbrook police officer who was intervening in a fight with his wife. He is given, you, sir, may fuck off, 6 months court supervision and $150 fine.
6 months probation for swinging at a cop?
Well, if he's not arrested during that supervision, it'll be stricken from court records.
That's nice, too.
So, yeah. I feel kind of bad for the cop who just came to do his job and got swung on by this psychopath, drunken lunatic. I mean, Jesus. I feel bad for Joanne and Deborah. Poor Claudia. God knows what she went through while she was injured and everything like that. I feel bad for all these people, Jimmy.
Yeah.
But not nearly as bad as I feel for Bobby Hull, CFO and COO at Le Cateran, whatever the fuck that is, in Providence, Rhode Island. Bobby Hull, a transportation safety engineer at Robert Hull Transportation Safety, LLC.
Oh.
So there's lots of shit there. Robert Hull, Rutgers Business School student, aspiring supply chain manager. That's an odd thing to aspire to.
Well, we
Good
need
for
you, sir. So hurry it up. Fast track that fucking degree.
You rarely hear people have, like, that's their dream is like a logistical job that, like, we actually need. Like shit like that.
Find out how to get Hitachis to these people.
Yeah, he's like, I want to be like a star, like, musician, but on TikTok in like 12-second videos. That's what I really want to be. I'm gonna make millions of. Bobby Hull, complex environmental manager, very complex, or is it an apartment complex? I don't know which one. In Johnson City, Tennessee. And finally, Robert Hull, Vice President, National Pursuit Champion at HNTB. I don't know what the fuck that is, but it's the greater Chicago area. So.
HNTB, hunt bitches.
HNTB.
Right.
Hunting bitches in the greater Chicago area. There was like hundreds of Robert Hulls, too.
Jesus.
1997, elected to the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame.
Wow.
On the heels of that, he goes to Russia, okay? He goes to Russia for a hockey tournament. He was a guest of the organizers at the annual Spartak hockey tournament, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well, during this, he's in a big conversation with a bunch of people, including some reporters.
Yeah.
And he knew they were reporters and everything, but it was a bunch of people talking. And he said at one point, he's quoted as saying, quote, Hitler, for example.
Oh, God.
Now,
oh no!
When you start a sentence with Hitler, for example, every head in the room snaps. Number one, two.
Where's this going?
Where's this going? Hitler, for example, was a monster who blah 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 blah. You can say that.
Right.
Anything other than that is socially unacceptable, and honestly, just unacceptable in the real world. It's just no. Fuck you. He
Hitler,
says,
for example,
quote, Hitler, for example, he might as well have said, say what you will about Hitler. Like, he might as well have said it like that.
Right.
Hitler, for example, had some good ideas.
Oh.
Again, don't isolate this. This isn't my thing. Then he said, quote, he just went a little bit too far.
Oh, fuck.
Okay. I don't even think we need to unpack that,
No.
like line word by word. You can't say that. And it's not even you can't say that because it's bad to say. You shouldn't say that because it's a fucking stupid thing to say. Not because it's socially unacceptable, because it's fucking ridiculous. Fuck, that's crazy. So he later...
By what? That Volkswagens are decent cars? What is he?
He later denied having complimented Hitler. I love the way they put that in the paper. And said that journalists raised the subject. Well, I don't care who brought Hitler up. We're not saying you brought it up. Either way, when it came your turn to talk, he went, decent guy. I like what he's doing.
Not bad.
He said also during this whole thing that he didn't like the Canadian government and they were giving welfare payments to people who don't deserve them. And then there was a thing about he was saying the black population is rising too fast. He was saying shit like this, and then he brings up Hitler and shit like that. So
started hinting about Nazism and then just went full Nazi.
The way it all went, it just doesn't sound good. Then later on, after this, he's asked if it would be fair to describe him as a racist.
Uh-huh.
Is it fair to describe you as a racist, Jimmy?
Right.
What he says is, I don't give a damn. I'm not running for any political office. Okay.
That's not the answer, man.
If someone asks you that out of the blue, you could say that, because what are you asking me that for? Fuck you. If you complimented Hitler 5 minutes ago, you have to then field questions about that. That's just the way shit works. So he also talked about, also in this interview, he talked about his son, Brett, saying, quote, he's a very loyal kid. Maybe he's not as strong mentally as I was and can't always follow through on his decisions. Hitler's good, my kid sucks, is what he just said.
I wish Hitler was my kid.
So he said all this, said he didn't care that he said it, and it doesn't bother him. But then in August of 98, he's meeting with Jewish and black leaders.
Oh, God.
And telling them, not apologizing, telling them that he was set up by a Russian newspaper that made him look anti-Semitic and racist.
Okay.
He met at the headquarters of the Canadian Jewish Congress, vehemently denying making pro-Hitler remarks, saying that he's suing the Moscow Times and the Toronto Sun for defamation and slander. Both. He said, quote, I feel there's more to this than meets the eye. I believe I was set up. We will endeavor to prove this in a court of law. Will you now? They said that... when he was talking about the black population, he was talking about the U.S. black population, not Canada's. Wow. There was genetic breeding and things were brought up into this. It gets worse here.
What the fuck? Why are you asking a hockey player these questions?
Because I think he might have said some stuff or something. A managing editor of the Toronto Sun said earlier that his paper has no plans to apologize. He says, quote, Bobby Hull is an icon, and we're sorry he's upset about this. But if he had a quarrel, it's with the Moscow paper. We just reported on their interview with him, as did lots of other media. Moscow Times said they stand by their story. The Canadian Jewish Congress President, Moshe Ronan, and Antony Shelton, they said, that's the director of the Urban Alliance of Race Relations, both said they appreciated Hull's clarification on the story, but would reserve their opinion until any court case is settled. Ronan said, we're not here to judge, Mr. Hull. Hull's...
You guys can do it yourselves.
So then he has to go on and explain further because no one's buying this. So he has to make a statement about it.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have to make a statement that starts with this first sentence, you fucked up bad. You fucked up bad if you have to make this clarification, okay? Quote, to my mind, Adolf Hitler was the most evil and despicable person who ever lived, and there is nothing good or positive that can ever be said of such a man. I deeply regret that some reckless and irresponsible reporter has chosen to spread falsehoods about me and otherwise skew the truth and distort the facts.
Here's a guy that forgot that people report the truth now.
Oh, man. Well, there's other people around. This wasn't alone in a room. This is the other thing. There's a bunch of other people. The editor of the Moscow Times supported the writer, saying that the interview took place in front of another reporter from a different Russian news service. They don't even work at the same place, along with a couple of Hull's friends. An interpreter was also present, but this guy noted that the guy speaks English fluently, so he would know, one of the guys that was there, the writer. So he said, this writer speaks English, so it wasn't mistranslated because he spoke English. So... The editor of the Moscow Times said, we were certainly very concerned about the story. We quizzed him very intensely about the story. We certainly made sure that we had a story, and we stand by it. They said the interview was not taped, but that the paper had his notes from the time. Yeah. And he's been around for about 4 years with this paper. Hulk said he can't figure out how these quotes got attached to him. He just doesn't get it.
It wasn't the broken English? Oh, because he's fluent. All right, maybe it was the vodka breath. I don't know.
He said, his lawyer said, Bobby is floored by this. He's stunned, upset, and hurt. All of them.
He can't believe he said that stupid shit either.
His lawyer said His lawyer said, I told him never to mention Hitler. I don't know. He thinks that sometimes you just mention Hitler and it's okay. I don't know what the deal is. He said that this is the lawyer's excuse. Hull recalled that the conversation ranged from a discussion of world leaders, including Hitler, to cattle breeding. Hull is a big cattle breeder in Canada. He said, quote, Bobby said it wasn't like they were having a major sophisticated political discussion. They were bouncing from topic to topic. Bobby said he favored genetic breeding in cattle. Maybe this guy made a mistake and thought Bobby was talking about Hitler when genetic breeding for cattle came up. Bobby can't believe anyone would misunderstand this. How do you get Hitler in genetics when you're talking about genetics in cattle? So,
we'd like to know too.
Yeah. But then also the lawyer goes on to say that, on the other hand, this is his own lawyer. On the other hand, Bobby does have a reputation for making wild statements just to see how people respond to it. So he said at one point, maybe the lawyer said that maybe Hull may have said something in jest and it was misunderstood. He said it isn't always clear to everyone that he's joking. Well, when you say Hitler had a lot of good ideas, that doesn't sound like a joke. Where's the punchline, Chief? Like, I don't get it. And what?
Say more.
Like swallowing a pill and blowing his brains out like that? That was a good idea when he killed him. Other than that, he didn't come up with a lot of them. So, wow. This is crazy. Bob Williams, president of Burns Celebrity Sports Service, whose company has lined up numerous appearances for Hull for a paycheck. He has reason to be very silver here. He says that Hull can get outrageous at times. He said, quote, he's just trying to elicit a reaction. He loves to tell jokes. He loves a great story. Hey, Jimmy. Hey, dude, I got a great fucking, dude, you're not going to believe what happened. Okay, check it out. Hitler had some good ideas, right? Dude, crazy, right?
You're a real cut up.
Funny as fuck, right? Yeah, high five. Fuck yeah. What? Telling joke. He's a real cut up. So, yeah. Now, Danson, the lawyer, also said he took issue with another quote when he said, I don't give a damn. I'm not running for political office.
That's the one.
He says that, quote, that would be a ridiculous thing for him to say. He knows his profile is how he makes a living. To make comments like that would be suicide. Absolute suicide. Yes, it is stupid. That's the point. That's the point. Yes, very stupid. He's earning between $5,000 and $7,500 per appearance to give speeches and showing up at golf tournaments. He earns excess of $500,000 a year.
Wow.
Shit. Yeah, at that point. Now, the translator who was there at Hitlergate, fucking Hitlergate 96 or 98, it gets more complicated now. A Moscow newspaper, they stood by the report. The translator who heard the interview say he may have been misunderstood or quoted out of context, though. Right. He says, this is Svetlana Murashkina. She told the Canadian press that she was helping another reporter interview Hull when a Moscow Times reporter joined the informal session. She said that Hull, who was asked about Hitler and other world leaders for a feature story on the 21st century. Okay, quote, as far as I can remember, the question was, what do you think? Is it possible that in the next century there will appear some rebel like Hitler and Stalin? Let's not go with rebel, by the way.
Why are we asking this of a guy who played? What the fuck?
Something like this. This is what the narrator said, or the translator. In fact, Bobby Hull answered not directly. She says, quote, he made some speculations just talking on the item. The word Nazis wasn't mentioned at all. He said that, for example, quote, I raise cattle. I know something about genetics. And then maybe he told that maybe Hitler tried to make some perfect race but went too far and that was not good. Again,
the clarification is worse than the claim. What are we doing?
That's not better.
You're not helping.
Hey, you breed cattle? How does that work? Well, you know how Hitler would do it, right? So when Hitler was trying to breed, like, no.
Who's coming with the edgy questions? Who's that guy?
No, don't say that. So she said, wow, that's fucking wild. So His daughter, on the other hand, Michelle, when she heard about the whole thing, she said, quote, the first thing I thought was, that's exactly like him. That's what she said.
That's my dad.
She heard the quote and said, I've heard that one before. He screamed that in the garage when he can't get the car to work right for some reason. So, man, that is fucking amazing. So 2003, he receives the Wayne Gretzky International Award for being a great guy. International, like Germany and everything. Everybody gave it to him.
Jesus Christ. The Wayne Gretzky Award presented by communism.
Or whatever, fascism, anything. War presented by warlords. So then there's the World Hockey Association here. He is named figurehead commissioner of the World Hockey Association, which intends to operate during the 2004 and 2005 NHL lockout, but it never played. Okay. So that was that. Brett ends up going to the Coyotes at one point, his son, and they unretired the number 9 so Brett could wear it while he was there.
Oh.
As his dad's number. They sought and received Bobby's permission to do that.
Yeah, right.
Now, Brett says that quote, let's see here. This is from an article. His resentment about Joanne is another matter. Hull doesn't bother with gloss or revision. No, this is Bobby. I'm sorry, not Brett. I was like, why would Brett be so mad? It's Bobby. Well, I hate my mom. That may make it really weird.
Yeah.
So even this is like 2015. He says, quote, she still uses my name. Pissed. On Facebook, she was listed as Joanne McKay Hull Robinson.
She does it just to fuck with him now.
Yeah. So those are 2 married names. McKay is her maiden name. So.
Yeah.
2016, the Winnipeg Jets defend their decision to induct Bobby Hull into its new Hall of Fame after a local critic argued that he shouldn't be honored because of his multiple domestic violence accusations and everything else.
And fucking praise of Hitler.
And praise of Hitler. He muddied the waters on that one enough where people just kind of laugh that one off now, which is crazy. So the one guy says, on the ice, fantastic player. No one can take away those accomplishments. But it's this off the ice history or behavior that really has me questioning, is this the kind of guy that we want to honor? He may not have been convicted, but I don't think that's ever really denied. I don't think he's ever really denied that this happened. Even during his own divorce proceedings in 1980, he basically acknowledged it, saying his wife wouldn't have put up with all this abuse if he wasn't her meal ticket. His own daughter has acknowledged that this abuse took place. Their housekeeper during the divorce proceedings also testified to calling police and having them come and intervene when incidents were taking place. So I really don't think there's too much of a question as to what took place there. 2017, named as one of the NHL's 100 greatest players.
Wow.
Now, all through this, by the way, he has been serving as an ambassador for the Blackhawks organization.
Ambassador to what?
Just to the community. Just, this is our guy that we'd like to represent us. Then this year, 21-22, the organization announced, quote, when it comes to Bobby specifically, we jointly agreed earlier this season that he will retire from any official team role. They said, though, that he's retiring and they're, quote, redefining the role of team ambassador.
Somebody that doesn't say Hitler's got great ideas.
Someone who doesn't praise Nazis and beat their ex-wives. Things like that we're looking for. Just a couple of qualities. Yeah.
Somebody that doesn't say the black population of America is a smidge too high.
A smidge too high if only we genetically engineered them like cattle. That's what he said, basically. That's
too high for my liking.
That's fucking crazy.
Unbelievable.
In 2010, one of Hull's what they call few acknowledgments of the allegations of the past, he showed little remorse. Asked if he's a different person in 2010 than 30 years earlier when many of these allegations were said to have taken place, he replied, quote, same guy with the same attitude toward life. You can only pass this way one time, and if you don't have fun, you'll go to the grave and you'll have missed a lot. Thank you, Ferris Bueller, you fucking asshole. You're not Ferris Bueller. He literally was like, what did that kid say in that fucking movie that time? The dude from The Cable Guy. What did he say in that movie? That's what he said at some point.
But also, you got to grow as a human being. That's what it's about.
Same guy. Can't get enough? Well, he's still the same fucking guy. Can't get enough. He's still the same guy. So hunt him down. He's still there. Also, you can get tons of Bobby Hull merch. I mean, it's everywhere. Old jerseys and the Blackhawks. It's out there. Don't worry about it. So you can get all sorts of stuff there.
Don't meet your heroes, man.
No shit, man. Fuck. We might have pissed people off 2 weeks in a row now.
Maybe.
Last week we pissed, I believe, one guy off. Yeah. By the way,
it was a whole.
He was very angry that we mentioned Tucker Carlson and laughed at him, and he chose Tucker Carlson over us. So we said bye. First of all, we give you hours of funny, free entertainment every week. Yeah. That guy lies to everybody on a daily basis. Yeah. And I'm not trying, this is not right. It's not left. It's not middle. It's not anything. It's blowhard, full of shit assholes suck dicks. And he is, if you love when I bitch about Skip Bayless, it's the same fucking guy, assholes. Same guy. Says shit he knows isn't true to piss people off. That's what Skip Bayless does. That's what he does. It's, if you sat down with him for a drink afterwards, he'd go, "Oof, man, that was a tough one. I really had to fucking stretch to get there today," because he knows. They all know. It's all a big fucking act. Yeah. It's all this shit. It's all that fucking article about, oh, they're so nice with their platinum-headed kids. It's the opposite, but the same thing. It's all showbiz.
Pushing horse shit down your throat and you're
we were just
and saying, "Can I have more?"
We were not making a political statement. We were making a statement about bullshit. That's all it is. So anyone full of shit falls into that category. I don't care if your political opinion is James Petrogallo and Jimmy Wisman should not have to pay income tax. If the rest of what you say is full of shit, I'm going to say you're full of shit, whether I like it or not. It's just the way it is.
I don't want to pay income tax. I don't want to pay alimony.
No.
But I pay them both.
Fuck, that's the thing. So there you go. So anyway, that's all we're saying. We wanted to get to that because we had one guy pissed off, and if anybody else is pissed off about that, you're free to leave also. Right. And if you're mad that we think Hitler is bad, again, you can fucking, I don't know. You never know nowadays. Honestly, you never know. Yeah. So I'm going to just say it right now. We're going to throw the gauntlet down. We're anti-Hitler. So if that's bad, we're going to have to part ways, okay?
All his ideas were terrible.
Terrible, not good, bad stuff. So anyway, that said, yeah, you can't not laugh at political blowhards. You can't. Everyone should be laughing at these people. Don't take them seriously. No. God damn it. And I'm not talking, it's at all spectrum sides, all of it. Just anybody has a fucking hour they have to fill every night with pissing people off, they're not going to always tell the truth. They're going to say shit to make you. Yeah. It's bad stuff. It's just a gross person. So anyway, when you think of that, just think of Skip Bayless and go, oh yeah, okay, it's just a blowhard asshole.
It's an idiot.
And I'll also fight him too. Either one. I'll fight either one of those guys. I don't care.
I would love to get a hold of ESPN and set that up, and I will gladly rope a dope Stephen A. while you pummel that fucking frosty-haired fuck.
Stephen A. will kick your ass. I think he's a big guy.
I don't think so.
I think he's a little bigger than you.
Beat the mashed potato out of his face.
Maybe. I don't know.
I cannot stand him.
Why would you want to though? That poor guy. You know how much time he had to put in arguing with Skip Bayless, dude. He's been through enough, Jimmy. Yeah, he's been through enough.
He can't question somebody's mental health and then not
point
out that he's not a doctor. That's my anger.
I think we knew that Stephen A. wasn't a doctor. I think everyone that was watching the show is aware I think he's a doctor. And then he's going to talk about the Warriors game in the next thing because that's what doctors do. But he still shouldn't have said that because that's a dumb fuck thing to say.
I think that he tries to sell it like he has some sort of personal vendetta. He doesn't know shit and he needs to shut up.
Well, anyone on television with an opinion show, politics, sports, they have to sell their opinion as fact because they're not selling anything. They're selling the thing that everyone has, opinions. That are like assholes, like your grandfather told you.
Right.
Opinions are like assholes, and everyone's got one. They all think. That's what they're doing. They have to fill time, so fuck him. But I couldn't hit anybody who had to look across the table from Skip Bayless every morning. He's been through enough. And I don't know if maybe that caused this. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
If he said that to me, I might give it a pass. But if it's, I wholeheartedly believe what I just said. I will knock the mashed potato right out of his face.
You know what? I'm going ahead and I'm blaming Skip Bayless. Whatever Stephen A. Smith says in the future that's stupid, and that goes for Shannon Sharp too. They get a pass because it was something that Skip said just drove him to it. I don't care. Anyone who has to spend any significant time with Skip. Skip's wife could kill 4 people, and I'd let her slide. I really would. I'd say she's been through a lot.
I get it.
The woman's been through a lot. So, yeah, that said, anyway, keep doing this. Give us 5 stars if you like the show. Yeah. It helps a lot, and you'll combat that Tucker Carlson dickhead who hated us and sent us an email saying we're terrible people. And even though we've given him years of entertainment, one comment about Tucker Carlson is a bridge too far for him.
That's too much for me.
So, bye, asshole. He'd be the guy that you'd happily have thrown out of a comedy club and wave to him as he leaves. We'll still be here. Yeah. Enjoy getting worked up over nothing, you fucking moron, over a comedy. So anyway, do that. Also, head over to shutupandgivememurder.com for all the merch, tons of merch there. Also, tickets to live shows all throughout the year. Get them right now. Still a couple of Crime and Sports that are going to happen even. Yep. You can do that. Follow us on social media. We are at Crime and Sports on Twitter and Facebook, at Small Town Murder on Instagram. Find out all the latest info and everything like that. Patreon, it's so good this week.
Boy, is it a week.
Patreon this week. First of all, anybody $5 or above, you get access to everything. Mm-hmm. The whole back catalog. You get Crime and Sports as bonus. You get Small Town Murders bonus. And they always kind of fold over into interest on both ends. So
sure.
This week, what you are going to get is spectacular. Apparently, there's a man out there an educated man who's a private investigator for a living, who
spent read and write.
Oh, big time. He spent over 15 years of his life behind the theory that OJ is, in fact, very innocent, and honestly, just being a good dad. That's really what it is.
What a guy.
He's got a whole theory about Jason Simpson, and it's not just theory. This man, there's been so many plane tickets purchased and rental cars, and he has stalked people and stood outside their places and talked to them. It's
He earned miles for this shit.
He went and sat in the Jeep that Jason Simpson had and sold to somebody like 10 years earlier. He went and sat in it to feel what it was like to be Jason Simpson on the night of June 12th, 1994. I'm not fucking kidding.
The book is the same view as Ian.
The book is called OJ is Innocent and I Can Prove It! ! And we are going to talk all about that. And then for Small Town Murders, we're going to have one of our like twice a year we do this, and it's great.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about the season that just ended of Love During Lockup, where they've really upped the ante for crazy here. I mean, it's wild. It's so crazy. So we're going to talk.
You're desperate for love. Boy, do I have news for you.
Wow.
Wow.
Not. And if you think that, you're doing well and you're playing people out there in the world, you ain't shit unless you have 3 charts telling you where people are, their net worth, their things, and move. I mean, it's you have to have a system set up. How many phones do you have? What are you, a punk?
You
Get more phones.
You willing to let your titties fall out in a street fight? Are you?
Are you? You should be. If you're not, then you're not cut out for this game. Love During Lockup there. Get that. Everything else on there. You get the whole back catalog and everything like that. And also, you're going to get a shout out like you do here in a second. And in addition to that, if you just want to make a donation over at PayPal, get your shout out, you can do that very easily going over to PayPal using our email address, crimeandsports@gmail.com. It's time, Jimmy. I need people. I need to feel good, goddamn. I need to hear a list of the people who would never, ever, ever compliment Hitler in a public interview. Jimmy, hit me with the list of fine people right now.
This week's executive producers are Jason Roberts, Mason Mills, Jordan Bennett, Lori Pietz, Max with no last name, Mortal Coil Serpenti, I think, Samantha Anderson, and Kevin Blankenship. You guys are fucking unbelievable. Thank you. Immensely.
Thank you, honestly,
forever,
the bottom of our hearts.
Truly, you're amazing.
You mean everything to us. Thank you.
Other producers this week are Christian's ex Elena. Happy birthday, Elena. I don't.
Yeah.
I guess you're friends enough to where you still talk. That's rad. I can't do it. I'm incapable.
Yeah, right.
Corporal Carl Kirshner, Liz Vasquez, James Martyr, Peyton Meadows, Heather Hayes, Sean Flanagan, Jeff Shrewsbury, Tony Simpson from Scotland, Akira, happy birthday. Akira Marta? Yeah, that's Marta with an exclamation point, not mortal. Marcel Destin, Paul Ruest, Sparky Big Time.
Sparky Big Time.
Gross.
You need to know Patreon, damn it.
Melissa Spears in Melbourne. Joey Pepperoni Nips and the kids at Dakota Digital. It's fucking great. Janice Hill, Frank. Do you want to say something to Joey? I thought you were going to.
We really appreciate Joey Pepperoni Nips. Every time it comes in, Sarah laughs and goes, Joey Pepperoni Nips again, and we laugh. It's just the only name we've ever laughed at in years. It's just so stupid. It strikes us as funny. I don't know why.
And I can see him.
Yeah, you can see him. And there's oil built up on them, like that.
I want to know, are they the size or just the color? What is it?
I think it's the color and the oil content is what it is. It's not even the size.
It's the taste.
Oh, it's very spicy. Got a spicy element to it. That's possible, too.
Janice Hill, Frank, the South African birdwasher, Florence Fullerton. Happy birthday, Kenny. Mom, Dad, and Kim said so.
To Kenny.
Happy birthday, Jared Hohey, Centeno Kennels in Canada. Adopt, don't shop.
Yeah.
Tracy Poets, Samantha Quigley, William Powell, Max Lode, gross. Dorothy Harkins, Carrie Cons, Ashley Haston, Mitchell, Malherby, Michael Davis, Ryan Huron, Catherine Ann, Alyssa Boring, Joshua Hopper, JR3308, Aislinn K, Kenny Stewart, Isaiah Zilka, Lauren DeChara, Kevin DeVincenzo. I can do it better. Matthew Sawyer, Tabitha Bauer, Jolie Bonanno, Candy Fitzhugh, Will Stageman, Joanne Carrington, Madison Waldrop, Reagan Waldress, Andrews, Jesus, Guido Pelagos, Lindsay Broswell, Bill Joe Jones. Bill Joe is so much harder to say. Kaylee with no last name. Stephanie McLean, Heather Johnson, Heather Elick. Okay. Blueberry the Pug, Nicholas Chandler, Rachel Shaw, Blake James, Samuel Wolrub, what is this? Braden Odendahl, Shane Boo, Megan Kemp, Lee Hill, David Falbo, Ben Manson, not related. Bryce with no last name, Kaylee with no last name, Mo McRae, Nikki Comer, Jens, is it Jens? Van Migro? Is it Jens like plural or is it Jens? Yin?
I don't know. Let's go with Negro on that one.
No, Migro.
I'm kidding. That was a joke.
With an M.
I know. That was a joke. Like you were trying to say the Spanish. Never mind.
I was making sure you heard what I said.
Yes, I did. Okay. I was trying to pick on you. So I wanted your face to get that color, which is red of like, I didn't say that, did I?
That's not me.
For no reason.
Listen, let me talk about, you want to talk about Hitler for a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. What are you busting out with, Bobby?
Zach
That's a crime and sports reference for small
Leanne Lardner donated both ways. No.
Oh, thank you.
Two patrons. Leanne Lardner. She has 2 patron accounts.
Well, thank you. You're
Jerry
so nice.
Gentry, Sarah Sampson, Nicole Thompson, Katrina S., Dave Mariner, Sebastian with no last name, Landon Cantrell, Echo with no last name, Aiden McDonald, Alex B., Jordan with no last name, Michaela Cardner. What? Yeah, Cardin. Christine Priest Nugents. Jean Kristen, Jean maybe, Annie Skilton, Ian Avery, Amber Cronin, Renee Eisen, Sandy Hoven, John Flynn, Leah Ahern, Bezia, Riley, Michael Schaefer, Steve Teft, Josh Shearer, Penelope with an M, no last name. No, that is the last name. Caitlin with no last name. Connor Brady, Lily Shore, Ashley Clausen, Amber Seidnitzer, Aiden Flaherty, Katie Windholm, Michael Wilson, Alicia Krause, Laura Lambert, Josh Casey, Jean Ives LaFond, Chris Ann Ferguson, Randy Martinez, Amy Harley, Kristen Twitty, Amy Comer, Ken Coopers, I think, Ethan Rose, Joe with no last name, Heather Siri, Tamara Ellis, Jay Bug, Bobby Joe, Allison Parker, Jason DeForest, Andrea Becerra, Grace Sweeney, Holly G, Sheena Kanoy, Wolfie Metalworks, Alexandra Hartung, Jessica Richardson, Pat and Robin, L. Dinkla. I'm working so hard. Rebecca Lissamore, Kath Ozog, Jen Beers, Amy Lemieux, Inga Bischoff, Brian with no last name, Michaela Jordan, Nicole Arnell, Daniel Miles Virali, Juniper Suluski, William Dixon, AC, Wayne Patterson, Tommy Pinkley, Rick Bryant, Lieutenant Dan's Legs, P.S.
That's nice of them to get back with us.
It's easy to read. Angela Jackson, Ashley Morrison, Joe Beckett, Michelle Hornberger, Jillian with no last name, Corey Gower, Margie Mulder Rothmayer, Janine with no last name, Chandler Whitney, Sam Winterer, Nick Rarby.
Oh.
Shauna with no last name, Brian Dillon, Christina Chmielewski.
Wow.
Presbeluski, Aaron Bowes.
Something Polish, as Night Shift would say.
Andrew Glassington.
Name of the deceased, something Polish.
Dylan Burns, Elise Poulin, Amber with no last name, Darren Hodgkins, Kane with no last name, Jennings, Socorso McCoy, Dylan Davis, June Dye, Marnie Wiltrout, Brent nephew, Jody Bolvanowski, Crumble Cake, Kyle Metcalf, Meg Hauser, Ryan Wendt, Tyler Sigvalston. What?
Sickbalston?
He who cringes at the sound of urine hitting water. Blaine Jackson, Kelsey Cox, Karen Heinrichs Lukes, Travis Manning, Jacob Elijah, Maya Rubeliard. Nicole Potter, Jesse White, Carla Spence, Jeremy with no last name, Craig Widgkins, Boss Hogg, Norma with no last name, Nolan Wilson, Reva Walker, Justin Miller, Ryan Schlickenmayer, Sherry Velez, Brent SPL Special, and Frazier, and all of our patrons. You guys, you're truly incredible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Honestly. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you do. We hope you're enjoying all the bonus stuff. And, thank you for, putting us on your payroll. We appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. And if you want to get a hold of us, how could they find us, Jimmy? What do they do?
Oh, well, we're on the internet over on...
The internet? I've heard of that.
Shutupandgivememurder.com. You can find either of us.
Do it.
Live show tickets. Come to the shows. I can't wait to see you, Chicago and Minneapolis.
Oh, we're excited. We love Chicago and Minneapolis, so we are jacked for that. We got to go back to that restaurant in Minneapolis. That was good.
Oh, where was that at?
That was fun stuff. I remember. I got that covered. Don't worry about it. We're going back there. That was where stranger ladies fed us cheesecake from their forks. It was the weirdest place we've ever been. Oh, that's
right.
And it was delicious cheesecake. What a great place. So, that said, Minnesota cheesecake to all of you.
Yeah.
Live from the Crime and Sports Studios. We will see you next week.
Bye.
If you like crime and sports, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
Have you ever gotten a message out of the blue? Maybe you ignore them. Or maybe you end up in conversation. Maybe they tell you about an amazing offer.
I can really show you how to make some money.
And maybe that gets you into a lot of trouble. But this isn't a story about people like you, the people receiving these messages. This is a story about the people behind the messages, on the other end of the line. Thousands of them, working in a microcity built for scammers. From Wondery, the makers of Dr. Death and Kill List, comes Scam Factory, a new series about survival at the expense of others. Follow Scam Factory on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Scam Factory early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.